Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible and my screen is visible. Yes. So, just to break the chain of quant, today we are doing VARC. All right. And today we'll be doing philosophy-based RC passages. So, this is a series of we call RC 99, in which there will be 11 sessions of nine RCs each. Okay, so in every session, I'll be doing nine sample RCs with some PYQs and some freshly made. All right. And throughout, I'll be giving you some time to read the RC passage. So, how are you going to do that? First, I'll be giving you 3 minutes to read the passage. Okay. 3 to 5 minutes, depending on what the passage is. All right. And once it's done, I'll be giving you 3 minutes, like 45 seconds each to solve every question. Cool. Then I'll be explaining it to you, and then I'll be solving it after you would have solved. That is one thing. The other thing is, I also thought, why not have a healthy competition between all of you, among all of you? How would that be? So when I say healthy competition, it's like you will be marking your scores in the comments. Okay. So +3 for positive, -1 for negative, and accordingly you'll be writing your scores once you have finished it all. All right. Is that clear, everyone? Tell me in the comments. Now, based on that, the healthy competition and the top three scorers will be gaining free access to my ZAD comprehensive ZAD crash course starting from 3rd December. All right, where I'll be dealing with everything: quantitative aptitude, the reading comprehension, decision making, DI, LR, each and everything, and even GK with a few ZAT level mocks as well. Cool. So let's start it, and it'll be depending on your RC score. So here I am. Hi, my name is Abhishek Leela Pandey. Probably you know me. Those who do not, by now you must have read about me on this slide. All right. So here we go. Let's start. So Grad School presents episode 1 of RC 99, and the genre is philosophy. And as you know, I always say that grad school is the India's first cinematic learning movement. So you see my slides, you see my thumbnails, it looks like some kind of Netflix series dropping in, yes or no? I hope you get that feeling over here, right? So that is my way of dealing with things because, education should not be boring. It should not be boring. It should be full of excitement, fun, love. Okay, and that is the only way people can learn. Otherwise, the entire life is boring. Why to make education boring as hell? So why not make it something which looks like a Netflix documentary, Netflix series, right? So that is my idea behind this. That is why I keep on experimenting with all that stuff. Cool. Phil loves Sophie. So if you say this out loud, and if I think you're watching me and you're watching this slide as well, just try to say it out loud. Phil loves Sophie. Phil loves Sophie. At one point of time, after saying it for 10 times, we'll start saying philosophy. This is Phil and that is Sophie. All right. Here comes the first passage. And also, I'll be giving you exactly 2.5 minutes to read this. I'm going to switch off my camera because that I think is blocking the view. Here we go. Good afternoon, Gaurav. Once you're done reading, type done. Good evening, Gushi. Okay, so 2.5 minutes are over, and I hope you're done reading. Let's go to the questions now. Time up for the first question, so I'm going to the second one. Time for second question is over. Going to third one. I can't see any answers. What happened? Good evening, Ayushman. Why can't I see any answers, guys? Hello, Ayushi. The first batch is going on. This is the third question, and time for third question is also over. Let's go to fourth one. This is the kind of speed you need in the real cat. While marking the answers, also write question one, this question two, this question three, this, and so on. All right. सब एक साथ आंसर करेंगे. Okay, that's nice. चलो. So passage one is over. जल्दी से मैं दिखाता हूँ. मैं जो लेट आए जो लोग. Question one. I'll wait for 20 seconds on every question. Question two. Question three. क्या हुआ ऋषि? सुपर फास्ट हो गया. देखो, इन 99 पैसेज करने के बाद जो रियल कैट में तुम बैठोगी, तुम्हें पहले से ही आदत होगी. मैंने तुम्हें डिसिप्लिन कर दिया है कि तुम्हें 10 मिनट में खत्म ही करना है ना? क्वेश्चन फोर. All right. So that's all. Now I want all of you to type your answers. Be quick. Before I explain, I want your answers to be there. Guys, tell me your answers. What happened? How is the passage, by the way? Difficult, easy, moderate, interesting? In terms of level of difficulty, in terms of interest, how is it? Philosophy seems to be boring, right? Okay, so let me explain this. There are two ways to go about. One is that I read the passage first, then read the questions and solve it. Okay, so another way is I read the questions first, then go back to the passage and then I solve it. So the thing is, I have always been an advocate of reading the passage first, then the questions. But that is in the initial days of CAT. The reason is simple because somehow I want students to develop a habit of reading, which is very, very, very important. All right. So if students start reading the questions first, then read the passage, they will be somehow be biased towards answering the questions, but all human minds are, psychologically speaking, human minds are hardwired to solve a problem. Okay, and if they cannot, they just some human minds get tired up, taxed up, and they retire from that. And some human minds are kind of full of great determination, like you guys, don't get tired and still try to find the answer. Sometimes they do, sometimes they do not. So that psychology actually, stops you from learning new things. All right. And that is the reason if this was a class for CAT 2026, I would have gone for the passage first, then the questions. Okay, and that was what I did here also in the first passage. But from the second passage, I would like you to read the passage, the questions first, and then the passes. All right. So I'm not saying this is the right way of doing it, but because we have very less time, so initially when I start with in the first 3 months, it should be passage, then the questions, but now should be questions and then the passage. So okay, let's read the questions now. First one says the phrase condemned to be free implies that, according to Sartre, okay, all that stuff is there, condemned to be free. So my mind would automatically try to, identify this phrase somewhere. Okay, point number one. Then first option says freedom inherently leads to suffering and despair. All right, that has some kind of negative tone to it, right? Human beings cannot escape the necessity of choice. They cannot escape. They are somehow bound to do it, right? Like forced to do it. That is what it means. Society imposes false notions of morality upon individuals. Again, negative tone. And for society, true freedom exists only in rebellion against authority. So things which are totally negative, totally positive is not the right way of judging the correct answer. We cannot eliminate, right, like that. Because if you see here, every every statement, every option is somehow negative. First one talks about it leads to suffering and despair. Second says they cannot escape. C says imposes false notions. D says it exists only in rebellion. So now you see that everything is negative over here, and that can make your life difficult. If you go by just the tone of the passage, tone of the question, tone of the options, you might do it wrong. Getting it? So tone is something which is just used to understand the passage, not to answer the questions directly in most of the cases. Okay, so now my mind wants to look at condemned to be free, and I read the options as well. And this should be done in first 30 seconds. All right, coming to next one. Hey Raviraj, good afternoon. Which of the following best captures the author's central argument? So this question is something in which I will have to read the entire passage, right? Uh, I should move my camera. Obviously, I should. That's right, YouTube. Let me switch off the camera for a while. Hmm. Okay, here we go. Now, do you understand what I'm saying, all of you? Please keep on commenting. Okay. So here, central argument. So I'll have to go to full passage. There is no shortcut of solving it. But yeah, once I read this entire thing, should I look at the options? No, I should not look at the options. In this case, in the first question, I had to look at the options. The reason was simple because it talks about a very specific, just a moment. What just happened? Um, some problem with the live stream? All right, all right. So no, it's okay. So what I'm saying, this is something which you should, when you're solving it, just keep in mind what all things are required. So read the question first. The questions, this question is very much specific to one phrase, and that is the reason I have looked at all the options. In the second one, this has to be done by reading the entire passage. I'm not reading the options. You know why? The reason is I don't want to get biased. You know what? If I read those four options, somehow I like one option or two options, and I will be looking for that. My mind will be looking for that. See, it's all a psychological game, less of language, more of psychology. So I don't want to bias myself towards looking at the option which I like the most. That is why the questions in which the question which talks about the central theme, all right, just note it down. Central theme, central argument, main purpose, okay, main purpose, all that stuff, main idea, all these questions. Even if you read the question, do not read the options, otherwise you will be totally biased. Is that clear? Yes or no? I won't read the options here. Coming to question number three. And all of this, all question ready should be done in 30 seconds each, not more than that. Third, the term bad faith in the passage, bad faith, contextual vocabulary question hai. I have to read the options. Pretending to be what one is expected to be to avoid responsibility. Okay. Betraying one's moral beliefs for personal gain. Rejecting all social structures and conventions. Believing that existence has a divine origin, except first three, which has some kind of negative connotation. Only fourth one looks positive, but that doesn't allow me to, kind of answer or reject things. No, I cannot do that. I'll have to read the passage and also look for this phrase where that phrase is, and I've read the options as well. Option दिमाग में याद हो चुके हैं कि पहला क्या है, to avoid responsibility, other is मोरालिटी गई भाड़ में, हमें चाहिए फायदा अपना, है ना, अपना काम बनता, भाड़ में जाए जनता वाली बात हुई। बी ऑप्शन। रिजेक्टिंग ऑल सोसाइटल स्ट्रक्चर्स एंड कन्वेंशंस, ये जोकर बन गए बैटमैन के, ये हमें हमें मानना ही नहीं है कुछ भी। बिलीविंग एक्सटेंस डिवाइन ऑरिजिन, यहाँ पे गॉड की बात हो गई तो बहुत ठीक है, हमें मालूम पड़ चुका है व्हाट वी हैव टू लुक एट। क्वेश्चन नंबर 4, व्हाट इज द ऑथर्स एटीट्यूड टुवर्ड्स डिटरमिनिज्म? Determinism, all right. Now, in this, you can either read the options or not read the options. Does it really matter? What matters is what's the meaning of determinism. Do you know what's the meaning of determinism? Who will tell me that? Determinism, anyone? Deterministic belief? In case you do not, it means that everything which happens has got a reason. Not just the reason, but an event happens, and because of that, the other event happens. So every event happens because of the outcome or the after effect of some previous events. All right. जिसको in India in Hindi we call it कि सब भगवान के हाथ में है, सब लिखा हुआ है, everything is written, it is written, destiny is written, all that stuff, that is determinism. All right. So these four things, cool. Can be determined, Ayushman? No, not really. No, no. That is just one characteristic feature of it. Determinism is a philosophical belief which says that everything is, kind of somehow connected to your previous actions, events, etc. Cool. Now, now let's read the question, the passage. Freedom, though often celebrated as humanity's ultimate achievement, is rarely examined as a burden. So now, जैसे ही कोई ऑथर दो ऑफन सेलिब्रेट बोलेगा, इसका मतलब ये है कि वो इस बात से पूरी तरह सहमत नहीं है. द ऑथर इज नॉट टोटली कन्विंस्ड अबाउट दिस. It's, he says, okay, it's often celebrated, but it's rarely examined as a burden. So freedom can be burden also. This gives us a hit. Oh, freedom is burden, really? We are all thinking about having freedom. Let's be free. आज़ादी चाहिए वगैरह वगैरह कह के लेंगे आज़ादी, all that stuff. But now it can be a burden. It should be examined like that. That's what the author of this passage says. Jean Paul Sartre's philosophy confronts this paradox with unsettling honesty. To be free, he argues, is not merely to have choices, but to be condemned to make them without excuse, without excuse, without refuge in divine command or social prescription. Now, Jean Paul Sartre, he was a philosopher, he says, um, you know, um, if you have the choices, if you have the choices, that's not the only meaning of freedom, which people feel. Okay, freedom is I have choices. It's my life. Okay, it's my choice. All that. So Deepika Padukone advertisement was there. I can do whatever, I can wear whatever, I can go and sleep with whoever, I can, do whatever, all those things. Choices. Is that freedom? No. The freedom is also a force to make those choices. You have somehow to make those choices. So, choosing something is also a part of freedom. You can never, 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 ever be totally free, definition wise. Okay, my mom once told me, my mom once asked me, this is very important to explain this. My mom once asked me, Beta, tell me what is the meaning, Hindi word for independence. I said, Swatantrata. My mom said, no, you are wrong. It's not Swatantrata. I said, why? She said, Swatantrata, Swa is self. Swatantrata is self-dependence. It's not independence. I said, oh, yes, that's right. But in English, we say Independence Day. In Hindi, we say Swatantrata Divas. The problem is, in Hindi language, there is no word for independence. That's a banger, and you guys might not be aware of it. There is no word for independence in Hindi language. You know why? Because language is made not just by what do you say, translation. Language is also made by cultural beliefs, the culture, the entire society. And in India, because it's an old society, it has got a lot of philosophers, early day sadhus and rishis, so they were more mature, more wiser than the Western counterparts. And we have endured a lot of things as Indians, and that is the reason Indians Indians knew that there's nothing Indian, nothing as such as independence. Now, this thing has been, now John Paul Sauter, as a philosopher, is saying that in the medieval history, but in India. Now think about it, you can be proud of it. Anyways, coming back to the passage. So, and that's my mom. She told me she's a literature, she was a researcher. So I was really, kind of, I was a kid when she told me that, and I was totally excited and intrigued by this. And that is the reason why I went into literature at all. Well, coming back to the passage. So it's, here is not merely to have choices, but to be condemned to make them without excuse, without refuge in divine command or social prescription. Each action becomes a declaration of value. Every decision carries the unbearable weight of meaning. All right. So how do you guys like that example which I gave you, which was told to me by my mom? Now, once we have read the first paragraph, I can answer this question, right? Condemned to be free implies what? Freedom inherently leads to suffering and despair. Inherently leads to suffering and despair. That means it has got only despair and suffering to show? Not really. That's not correct. Okay. That is not what they have said. They are looking at both the aspects, both the aspects of the same coin. All right. So that can't be true. Is that clear? Looks good. Understood. Yeah. Second is human beings cannot escape the necessity of choice. Okay, looks like this is correct, isn't it? Condemned to make them, to have choices, but to be condemned to make them. B looks totally correct to me. Let's see other two options. Society imposes false notions of morality upon individuals. Nowhere they have talked about, false notions of morality. True freedom exists only rebellion against authority. Nowhere mentioned, not even explicitly, intrinsically, implicitly said, anywhere or implied. We'll go with option B. I hope all of you got it correct, right? Cool. All right. This reminds me of dialogue from the movie Matrix. Choice is an illusion. You always know what to do. I'll look at the camera and say that out loud. Choice is an illusion. You always know what to do. Okay. Second. Is that clear? Coming to the second one. Which of the following best captures the author's central argument? We don't know because we have not read the entire passage. Coming to the second paragraph. Cool. In the absence of a predetermined moral order, man becomes. चलो यहीं पे ले आते हैं. In the absence of a predetermined moral order, man becomes the author of his own essence. Yet this authorship is not accompanied by divine satisfaction, but by anxiety. All right. The realization that one's choices create the framework within which others also live introduces a collective dimension to individual acts. Freedom is never solitary. It spills into social worlds, shaping norms and expectations. Thus, to choose selfishly is still to legislate implicitly for all. Now, I'll explain that. um, See, when you think about, okay, why society is asking you to do this, why there is a kind of a social conduct, an order which all of us must be following. Why people have certain kind of judgments, prejudgments about things. Why your parents tell you to do certain things in a certain way, all that stuff. So it says it spills into the world. So realize that one's choices create the framework within which also live. Others also live. You understand that? So let's say someone someone has a choice, and that person is in authority. It can be a teacher, it can be a leader, political leader, it can be a film star, it can be any famous person, a public figure, and most importantly, it can be your immediate relatives, your parents. All those people, they have choices, and those choices somehow shape your life as well, your choices as well. So are you really free? Now this is the part in which that is what the entire passage is all about, that we have to kind of examine it as a burden as well. Do you understand that, all of you? So do you think um touching someone's feet out of your choice is freedom? That's a question, right? Touching someone's feet is something which has been told to you that it's a good thing by your parents and by your society, right? That is why you do it. And you feel free. Okay, I'm free to touch anyone's feet. Getting that? But that, so it's the choice of your ancestors, and somehow it bleeds up to you as well. Is that clear? Do you understand? That is what the explanation of the second paragraph is. Coming to third one, Sartre's famous dictum, existence precedes essence, dismantled centuries of metaphysical comfort. Traditional thought held that a human being was born with an essence, a rationality, virtue, or a soul that defined purpose. Traditional thought, that means people have been thinking from for quite a long time now that a human being was had essence. And what is essence? What actually essence is the virtues, the rationality, okay, and there is soul, which is God fearing, which knows what is good, what is bad, what is evil, what is, all that stuff. So traditional belief was that people are born with some kind of essence, okay? But existentialism, which Sartre introduced, that existence precedes essence. It's existence first, then comes the essence. Existentialism reverses this. One exists first and only then defines oneself through action. First, one has to exist to do something in the world. The terrifying corollary is that failure, cowardice, or cruelty are not deviations from an essence, they become the essence. That is the thing, this gives me goosebumps actually. You understand that we always talk about good things, good deeds, good people, doing good to others, because that is what the essence means. But no, existentialism says that is terrifying in a way that all the negative traits like failure, like cowardice, कायरता, cruelty, क्रूरता, ये चीजें एसेंस से अलग चीजें नहीं है, ये खुद एसेंस का पार्ट है, right? Getting it? Cool. Good afternoon, Ankit. Hmm. In this framework, moral life is a project, not a compliance. The existential self cannot hide behind determinism, biology, or fate. Freedom exposes man to a vertigo of possibility and, ironically, to the temptation of escape. Okay. So, many, Sartre notes, flee from freedom into bad faith. From freedom into bad faith. Now, this is going to answer our question. Okay, bad faith, मैंने बोला गया था. The waiter who plays at being a waiter, the soldier who obeys orders to avoid responsibility to deny one's freedom is itself an act of freedom. Wow, nicely said. You understand that a soldier doesn't want to take responsibility, so he obeys orders. You know what happened? I was a person, like I'm a person who always believed that all humans are equal, and all humans, have this spark of creativity, curiosity, initiatives. So as a manager, I kind of thought that. Then one of my very senior friends, she told me, Abhishek, you know what? Some people love to take orders. I said, no. Why, ma'am? Why that happens? Why people would love to take orders? Isn't that, kind of some kind of um, some aspect which is not exactly slavery, but some kind of aspect which is not totally freedom? She said, no, no. Some people are built to take orders. I felt as a young person, I thought, when you are very young, I mean, young, this early 20s, teenager, you feel that adults who are in their 30s are evil people. But no, they are not. They have understood what this passage is trying to make you understand now. So soldier obeys orders to avoid responsibility. And that is the reason every soldier is not the commander. Getting it? And that is the reason why there is a different kind of exam for officers in defense forces, that is NDA. Clear? So a waiter plays to being a waiter. He understands the entire economics, entire operations of a restaurant, but he won't open a restaurant. You know why? Because he somehow feels like being a waiter is avoiding responsibility. So he or she is denying their own freedom, and that is also an act of freedom. So denying your own freedom is also an act of freedom. Why? Such a nice thought. The existential burden then is double to create meaning where none is given, create meaning where none is given, and to accept responsibility for that creation. It is in this anguish that authenticity is born, not in the comfort of certainty, but in the courage to choose and choose amid absurdity. Okay, so what is authenticity? Now, in the end, the author has also introduced and defined what authenticity means. It authenticity is born because you have this courage, this grit, this determination to choose something, even if the entire world is not choosing it, even the entire world is against it, and you might feel look absurd. Now, tell me something. Haven't you felt? Uh, Probably a lot of you who might be aspiring musicians, aspiring sports people, many of you who are watching this right now will be watching it as a recording. And tell me in the comments as well. You guys must have thought, okay, I'll become a singer, I'll become a dancer, I'll become a musician, a poet, uh, a sketch artist, a photographer, all that stuff, right? All that stuff. But and when you try to choose that, people made you feel that you're absurd, isn't it? I won't be, using some kind of expletive over there, but people say that to you, and all of us must have, walked through it. And that is why it's said that it's very important, and you're very lucky if you get good, born into good family. Good family means the people who understand you, your parents and your extended family. That is what it basically means. So people who have the courage to choose, even if they look absurd, is authenticity. It's not freedom. Do you understand that, all of you? So I made you, I explained the passage to you totally, and because I'm talking, so it will take some time, but at the very same time, now you have understood that this is how you read the passage, and that is how you won't be ever wrong. Hmm. Question number two. Which of the following best captures the author's central argument? Central argument. See, in the entire passage, the author has neither, condemned freedom nor supported it totally. The author has talked about, both the sides of it. Let's see which option, talks about that. First says freedom grants humanity limitless potential for good. Not That's not a central argument. Limitless potential good. It can be evil also. Freedom is a double-edged sword that demands accountability. That looks correct to me. See, freedom is an illusion constructed by existential anxiety. It's an illusion. So that is a part, but that is not the central argument. That can be supporting argument, right? The freedom is attainable only through moral obedience. Now, this is totally not even the it's not even mentioned in the passage at all. So we'll go with B. It's a double-edged sword. In fact, in the last line, it's clearly said the existential burden then is double to create meaning and to accept responsibility. Do you understand that? So we look at the both the sides. Cool. Coming to next. Bad faith. Pretending to be what one is expected to be to avoid responsibility, betraying one's moral beliefs for personal gain, rejecting all societal structures and conventions, believing instances पहला ही है क्लियर हो गया मैंने इतना एक्सप्लेन किया है कोई गलत कर ही नहीं सकता इसको राइट सोल्जर का एग्जांपल और उसमें in the passage also explain that you won't ever be wrong in this one. Question number 4, which okay, question number 4. What is the author's attitude towards determinism? Neutral, passage does not evaluate it. Favorable, it provides relief from moral anxiety. Critical, it is portrayed as an evasion of freedom. Supportive, it explains human limitations effectively. All right. So the passage says that existentialism is totally opposite of determinism. Do you understand that? That means the author was not neutral, not favorable, not even supportive. Author was critical about it. We'll go with option C. Is that clear? Is that clear, everyone? I would like you to tell me your marks. And also, I would like you to tell me whether you liked the passage and then you liked my explanation. And do you think that this is the correct way of solving questions? Tell me any scores as well. 3 on 4 is not the score. My the score will be correct के लिए +3, wrong के लिए -1. So the correct answers are B, B, A, C. B, B, A, C is correct. Cool. Level up. One batch complete, guys. Finally, we have done one passage, the first time on this channel, and somehow I think there's how many of you have um, attended my first RC class? आज से पहले कभी नहीं किया था. Sharing is caring, guys. Share the live stream with your friends. They deserve it. Cool. Let's go to the next passage. So time starts now. I'll be giving 3 minutes. All right. It shows 3:42 and 3:45. But. I will also show you the questions. First, see the questions. For every question, I'll be giving you 30 seconds. Oh, Akash, yes. हाँ, पहले मैं ही लेता था. Right. First question, 30 seconds up. मुझे लगता है कि इस क्वेश्चन के तुम्हें ऑप्शंस नहीं पढ़ने चाहिए, है ना? क्योंकि पूरा पेज पढ़ के ही आएगा, इसलिए इसमें कम टाइम मिलेगा. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Author's turn towards Descartes' project is best described as what? इसके B7 काफी हैं, छोटे ऑप्शन हैं. Fourth, the very act of questioning, ये कहीं क्वेश्चन पैसेज से उठाया गया है. सारे ऑप्शंस पढ़ लो. बहुत अच्छी बात है आयुष्मान. So now your 2.5 minutes start. Read the passage. 3:44 by my watch. At 3:47, we'll start the questions. I'm going on mute, guys. I think you're done with the question reading. That is why I've come with the first question. Here comes the second question. Third question. Ayushi, were you done with the reading? The fourth question. All of you, type your answers. I'm going through questions once again in case people have not done. 10 seconds each. All right. Your answers, please. The pursuit of truth has often oscillated between two seductions, the desire for certainty and the acceptance of fallibility. परस्यूट ऑफ ट्रूथ, सत्य की तलाश में, है ना? तो दो तरह के बिलीफ सिस्टम है. वन इज या not the belief system, but what we look for. One is we desire certainty in truth. Other is we accept the fallibility of truth as well. Both the things, right? रेने descartes, कुछ लोग इसे डिस्कार्टिस बोल देते हैं मैथ्स वाले खास करके. Descartes, Descartes rule, Descartes rule. So Rene Descartes inaugurated modern philosophy by insisting that only that which is indubitable, which I mean that means which cannot be doubted, deserves the name of knowledge. Okay, so what cannot be doubted should be knowledge. That is what Rene Descartes said. In his methodic doubt, he sought a foundation immune to error, an Archimedean point from which the entire edifice of science and morality might be constructed. His cogito. What is cogito? Cogito ergo sum. So now Latin phrase. Cogito ergo sum. That's Latin. It means I think, therefore I am. Heard about that? चिंतये अतो अस्मि, चिंतये अतो अस्मि, मैं सोचता हूँ इसी कारण से मैं हूँ. The awareness of thinking itself promised such certainty as self-evident as light to the eye. Yet Immanuel Kant, writing a century later, subtly dismantled this optimism. He subtly dismantled. That means he was not totally against him. No, he was not that okay, मैं एकदम चीर फाड़ दूंगा डेकार्ट की बात. No, not like that. Subtly dismantled. He argued that truth is not an external object to be found, but a structure the mind imposes upon experience. So truth is not what you see outside. Like light is to eye is truth according to Descartes. But Kant would feel that because we can experience light, that is why we feel light is there. Do you understand that? The major difference? Descartes would say knowledge is or truth is same as what light is for eye. But Kant would say, Immanuel Kant would say, no, that's not reality. Reality is because we perceive light in a particular way, that's why we feel it is knowledge, it is true. Understood? The categories of understanding, causality, substance, time, and space, all these four are categories of understanding things, are not features of the world as it is, but of the mind as it knows. तो जो हम देख रहे हैं वो दुनिया में है या नहीं हमें ये नहीं पता. हम उसे देख पा रहे हैं, महसूस कर पा रहे हैं, इसलिए हमें लगता है कि वो है. That is what Kant says. Do you understand? While Descartes said because we can see it, it means it was there. Clear? Kant says we can see it, so we feel it is there. Do you understand the main difference? Hence, the world we inhabit is partly constructed by the conditions of our knowing. Tell me, yes, कुछ तो बोलो. इतनी philosophical बात सुनी. This insight transforms epistemology. What is epistemology? Study of knowledge. Study of knowledge. But discipline, जैसे ology is study of something, the study of knowledge, into a mirror. To seek truth is to study not merely the world, but the lens through which it appears. ठीक है. सत्य की तलाश सिर्फ दुनिया को देखना या महसूस करना नहीं है. ये वो भी है कि जिस तरह से हम दुनिया को देखते हैं. हम कौन सा चश्मा पहन के बैठे हुए हैं. ओके. सो रामायण रामचरितमानस में युद्ध कांड एक है जहाँ पे हनुमान जी संजीवनी बूटी लेने जाते हैं तो जंग पहाड़ पे उन्हें मिलती नहीं. पहाड़ में बहुत सारी घास फूस है, बहुत सारे पेड़ पौधे हैं, तो गुस्सा हो जाते हैं. गुस्से में उनकी आंखें लाल हो जाती हैं. अभी समझ में आ गया ये जो बोला मैंने अभी, अब समझ में आ चुका होगा. अभी देखो एकदम क्लियर हो जाएगा. तो हनुमान जी की आंखें गुस्से में लाल हो गई. ओके. जैसे वे गुस्से में लाल हो गई तो जो सफेद फूल थे संजीवनी के वो उनको लाल दिखने लगे. ठीक है. कितनी अच्छी बात है. अब देखो रामायण हुई थी, किस तरह से हुई थी, किस तरह लिखी गई है, हम उस पर विवाद नहीं करेंगे. पर इतना जरूर है कि उसमें एक सीख है. वो ये है, यहाँ पे बताया है कि हनुमान जी गुस्से में उनकी आंखें लाल हो गई तो उनको सफेद फूल लाल दिखने लगे. ठीक है ना. ठीक है ना. वो सत्य क्या था. सत्य क्या था, सफेद फूल या लाल फूल. दुनिया के लिए सफेद फूल सत्य था. पर हनुमान जी उस टाइम उनकी आंखें लाल थी, उनको फूल लाल दिखाई दे रहे थे. बात समझ में आई. दैट इज व्हाट इट मीन्स. टू सीक ट्रूथ इज टू स्टडी नॉट merely the world but the lens through which it appears. Do you understand that now? The simple philosophy. The Cartesian, it's Descartes. Cartesian dream of unmediated knowledge dissolves into critical realization. Okay, let me move my camera over here. Okay, cool. Hmm. Here we go. Into critical relation that the mind can never step outside itself to compare perception with reality. We know only phenomena, never the nominal. What is nominal? Who will tell me that? Nominal. New word? हम केवल फिनोमिना, जो चीजें हो रही हैं, जो घटनाएं घट रही हैं, किस तरह घट रही हैं, हम वो जानते हैं. We don't know the nominal. Nominal is something, which जिसका existence we cannot prove. We have no words, no expressions to prove the existence. We just believe in it. Okay, believing it to be true. For example, No, Ayushman, that's not new. New word, I said. Okay, I said nominal is, for example, God. God. God is a nominal. So there are a lot of nominals. God, ghosts, soul, afterworld. Getting it? That is nominal. We just believe it to be true. We cannot even experience it. Clear? Okay? Yes, Akash. Observation is reality. Exactly. तो क्वांटम फिजिक्स जो है वो फिलोसफी को काफी तक प्रूव कर देगी. कमिंग टू नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ. इन द वेक ऑफ कांट ट्रूथ बिकम्स रिलेशनल कंडीशनल एंड प्रोफाउंडली ह्यूमन. कांट के हिसाब से, क्योंकि वो जो इंसान जो सोच रहा है वही दिखाई दे रहा है उसको. Certainty gives way to coherence. A belief is true not because it corresponds to some independent reality, but because it fits consistently with the network of our concepts. वाह. तुमने सुना होगा, there are a lot of people who say, not all, some people say that, some girls say that all men are cheats, right? Some men say all women are manipulators. ये बहुत ही generalize कर देंगे लोग. But then people say, all Muslims are terrorists. Then people say, all all that stuff. So when people say that, it fits consistently within their network of concepts. It doesn't mean that it is an independent reality. Do you understand that? I gave you a very simple example, which I can give you high level examples as well, but I chose to give you simple examples so that you understand this complex concept outrightly. Is that clear, everyone? Okay. The risk of relativism hovers nearby, but Kant's critical philosophy risks it by asserting universal conditions of human thought. So, these simple examples, which we deal with every day, are not true. Essentially, they're not true, right? It just fits into our network of beliefs, our network of thoughts, our network of perception. Cool. Thus, modern philosophy inherits an uneasy legacy to honor truth without claiming possession of it. ओके. मॉडर्न फिलोसफी, ठीक है, ट्रूथ को हम इज्जत देंगे बट उसको हम क्लेम नहीं करेंगे. टू लिव विद इन रीजंस बाउंड्रीज विदाउट डिस्पेयर, द वेरी एक्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चनिंग, Kant might say, is the noblest form of faith. This is very important. The act of questioning is the noblest form of faith, not in divine revelation, but in the mind's courage to interrogate itself. And that is something which, when you start questioning, like why we worship gods, why do we feel gods are there, or maybe why do you say this person is like this, why do you have to create boundaries, why do you have to say that this kind of set of people will behave the same way. So this act of questioning is the actual faith, the noblest form of faith. That is what Kant says. And why is it so? Because Kant के according, truth is what humans believe in, what humans perceive. So the more you question, the better perception will get, and maybe you will get closer to truth. That is my interpretation of this passage. If you like the interpretation, throw some likes, guys. I think you did, right? So more you question, more you know, the closer you get to the truth. Though you will never get to the exact truth, but yeah, you'll get closer. Now, here come the questions. Is that clear? So first is main contrast between Descartes and Kant lies in. मैंने पहले ही समझा दिया था इस चीज को. देखते हैं कौन सा ऑप्शन है. Descartes skepticism versus Kant's idealism. Descartes emphasis on double doubt versus Kant's emphasis on faith. Descartes' search for external truth versus Kant's view of internal structuring. Descartes' moral optimism versus Kant's moral relativism. What is that? Simple था. Descartes was looking for truth which is external, while Kant was looking at internal. So option C is the most ideal one. Is that clear? ठीक है ना. जो दिख रहा है वो, जिसको हम समझ पाए वो सत्य है, ऐसा देकार्त ने बोला. पर कांत ने क्या बोला कि जिसको हम सच समझ रहे हैं वही सच है हमारे लिए. ऑलराइट, कमिंग टू नेक्स्ट वन. Which of the following best summarizes Kant's view as presented in the passage? Truth exists independently of perception. ये तो है ही नहीं. वो तो बोलते हैं कि perception के हिसाब से होता है. Truth is relative to individual feelings. अच्छा, ये क्लोज है ऑप्शन, है ना, मैं इस पे क्वेश्चन मार्क लगा दूंगा। सी, truth is constructed by the human mind's cognitive framework. Now, if I have to choose between option B and C, C is a better option. Why? Because B talks about feelings, okay? Feelings. And C talks about human mind's cognitive framework. So cognition, cognitive, cognitive is a word which involves a lot of other things also. Reason, logic, observation, interpretation, and feelings as well. Right. So B would be rejected now. Coming to D, truth is unknowable and should be abandoned as an ideal. कांत का मानना था कि ट्रूथ अननोएबल है, बट कांत का मानना ये भी था कि हम ट्रूथ तक पहुंच सकते हैं बाय क्वेश्चनिंग. राइट. Right. Ayushman and Sudeep had this doubt. So, see, Kant, जो डी तुम कंफ्यूज हो रहे हो, डी एक ऐसा है which can be an after effect of Kant's reasoning. Okay. But look at the question. Question says, which of the following best summarizes Kant's view as presented in the passage? पैसेज के अंदर जो बात करी गई है वो ये करी गई है कि कांत को ये लगता था कि जो चीजें हमारा माइंड देख सकता है, समझ सकता है, हमारे फ्रेमवर्क के अकॉर्डिंग है, उसी को हम सच मान लेते हैं. सो बिटवीन सी एंड डी यू विल गो फॉर C, not D. This question had a trap option, which was D. B could also be, a confusion for people, but now between B and C, eliminating B was easy. Between C and D, now you know that C would be better because Kant doesn't explicitly say that truth is unknowable, and उसको abandon करने ऐसा नहीं बोला गया है, and this is not what has been talked in the passage outrightly. Clear? चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Question 3. The author's tone towards Descartes' project is best described as what? पहला बोल रहा है admiring yet critical, dismissive and ironic, reverent and unquestioning, detached and neutral. देखो dismissive और ironic तो नहीं है ना? He's not dismissing Descartes' point of view. Reverent इज्जत कर रहे हैं, ये बात सही है. Unquestioning, ये बात गलत है. Second part is wrong because he is questioning the thought, and that is the reason why the author has come up with Kant's point of view. So C can also be eliminated. Detached and neutral. He's not detached. You know why he's not detached? Because it clearly says the first word itself is not detachment. Two seductions, desire, all these words show that it's not detached. It should be a admiring. He was admiring that okay, this is such a great thing. His cogito. He talks about the cogito and all that stuff. But then he's critical also because he introduces Kant's philosophy there. Cool. Coming to next one. The very act of questioning is the noblest move faith. ये last line थी. Okay. मतलब क्या है इसका? Inquiry replaces belief entirely. Okay. Intellectual humility itself sustains reason's purpose. See, it very act of questioning is the noblest form of faith, not in divine revelation, but in the mind's courage to interrogate itself, अपने ही choices को, अपने ही बातों को क्वेश्चन करना, यही सबसे नोबल फॉर्म है. तो यहाँ पे खुद की बात को इंक्वायरी बिलीफ, ये बात सही है, लेकिन इंटायरली ये बात थोड़ी सी फार फेच्ड है. ठीक है. B. Intellectual humility itself sustains reason's purpose. Exactly. B looks correct to me because intellectual humility, it's humility only, not that your intellectual humility that okay, you can question yourself. B looks correct to me. C says rational thought leads to inevitably to religious conviction. ये बात तो बोली ही नहीं गई है, हटा दो इसको. Truth cannot exist without skepticism. This is also true, but between B and D, D is very generic statement, but B actually captures what author has to say. So we'll go with B here. Correct answer is B. ठीक है. तुम लोगों ने डी मार्क कर दिया है. Main thing is mind's courage to interrogate itself. This is nothing but intellectual humility. This is the exact word which can describe this entire phrase given in B. All right. हाँ. रीजन का पर्पस क्या है? पर्पस ऑफ रीजन क्या है? नो द ट्रूथ. द पर्पस ऑफ रीजनिंग इज knowing the truth. Okay, and how do you know the truth? By questioning yourself. That is why it's intellectual humility. Clear, Ashman? Akash, it's better to leave it, but mark for review and go to the next. By the way, जैसे समझा रहे होगा तुम इस बात को समझ पे तुम्हें आ रहा है, अभी और पैसेज है, धीरे धीरे क्या पता तुम समझ जाओगे कि लीव नहीं करना चाहिए, है ना? लेट्स वेट. For now, if you are going to solve a mock tomorrow, maybe you can leave, but I would say that you should not leave. Let's complete 99 passages for series. I'll make sure that you don't leave this question. Clear? आगे बढ़ते हैं. Here comes third passage. So your scores, all of you, coming to third passage now. Here we go. थोड़ा सा लंबा पैसेज है, so I'll be giving you 3 to 4 minutes. My watch says 4:08. We'll start with 4:11, but before that, I would like you to read the questions. First says, which one of the following set of words is closest to mapping the main arguments of the passage? This is the kind of question which you should read the options. Imagination, magnetism, psychiatry, all these words. जल्दी रीड कर लो, 20 seconds तक गिन रहा हूँ मैं. Rahul, okay, I'll explain that. Read this first. बता देता हूँ राहुल जो पूछ रहा है. Truth can't exist without skepticism. Skepticism is, a thought process in which we don't believe in things outrightly. Okay, so that means you will be questioning it, and that is the reason why people mock tea. Because if you're skeptic about something, you will question it. That is what people thought. But you know what? If you're skeptic about something, it's not necessary that you question it. Questioning requires grit and determination. Skepticism is the cause for questioning, but every skeptic would not really question things. Do you understand that? But everyone who is questioning things is a skeptic. That is true. And that is the reason why we did not go with D. So those who mark D now, this explanation might be, making it really clear to you, right? So truth cannot exist with skepticism. That can be true only if all the skeptics actually ask the questions, at least to themselves. Clear? But even if they do, the probability is even if 99%, it's not 100%. Option B specifically talks about questioning itself, right? चलो ये देख लेते हैं फटाफट. आगे बढ़ते हैं. सेकंड क्वेश्चन पढ़ लो. इज दैट क्लियर राहुल? थोड़ा लंबा क्वेश्चन है, इसको 20 सेकंड्स दे रहा हूँ, पढ़ लो. वैसे ये तो एक डायरेक्टली फ्रेज उठाया हुआ है यहाँ से. ऑलराइट, so now the time starts. It's 4:10. At exactly 4:14 I would show you the question. I'm going on mute, switching my camera off. All right, second question done. Here comes the third one. नाइस। आकाश से पढ़ तो लिया पर आधा सर के ऊपर से गया। आयुष्मान से लगा कोई विदाउट कॉन्टेस्ट गॉसिप पढ़ रहा हूँ। नाइस। चलो, all of you have marked the answers. Question number one, question number two, question number three, question number, अच्छा तीन ही है क्या? One, two, three. Only three questions. Cool. Marked it, all of you. फिर से दिखा दो एक बार। 20 seconds each. पैरा समझ नहीं आया? Okay. Now tell me something. How many of you actually got the hang of the paragraph or the entire passage? चलो ठीक है. Let me explain this. Now it says, today we can hardly conceive of ourselves without an unconscious. Today मतलब आज के टाइम पे है ना, आज के समय में आजकल हम अपने आप को अनकॉन्शियस में इसको I'll explain in हिंदी as well. अनकॉन्शियस जो वर्ड है इट्स कॉल्ड अवचेतन. अवचेतन में से हाँ, है ना, अवचेतन. You understand that Chetana is consciousness. Okay, so Ajkal, today we cannot conceive ourselves without an unconscious, because now unconscious word has become a daily word for us, isn't it? हर दिन नहीं बोलते subconscious mind, power of subconscious mind, your unconscious brain, things like that. All that stuff we keep on, saying that. So today we cannot hardly conceive. Yet between 1700 and 1900, this notion developed as a genuinely original thought. The unconscious burst the shell of a convenient language, coined as it had been to embody the fleeting ideas and the shifting conceptions of several generations, until finally it became fixed and defined in specialized terms within the realm of medical psychology and Freudian psychoanalysis. So I'll tell you what. See what happens. There are some words which which grow upon us for decades, for centuries, and those words seem very fashionable until some genius tries to have a proper authenticity to it, to research on it, and then that word becomes, for example, I'll tell you what, आजकल से क्वांटम फिजिक्स चल रहा है ना. हम बोलते हैं भूत नहीं होता, भगवान नहीं होता, होता नहीं होता, वी डोंट रियली नो, बट समहाउ अभी गॉड पार्टिकल की बात आ गई थी. Okay, so one point of time, probably the things which today feel like fashionable words might become reality. That's what happened between 1700 1900. And then Freud, Sigmund Freud. I hope you know that. Sigmund Freud, Sigmund Freud, you know that, right? Father of modern psychology. That was Carl Jung. Okay, so Freud did psychoanalysis, and now this word unconscious became fixed, and now it is a technical term. Is that clear? इसका मतलब ये है पहले पैराग्राफ का. Is that clear? Okay. So every time new words are created, now you live in a world where a new word might not look new to you, but maybe the next generation would feel that this word is now a technical term which our ancestors were just using either fashionably or colloquially. Okay. So yeah, yeah. So new words were created in that time between 1700 to 1900, and old words are changing meaning, and language of the mind. When I say mind, I mean mentality, mentis, psychology. This language was still developing. तो ये चीज फ्रॉइड ने पूरी कर दी. Is that clear? Now, coming to the next one. The vocabulary concerning the soul and the mind increased enormously in the course of the 19th century. The enrichments of literary and intellectual language led to an altered understanding of the meanings that underlie time-honored expressions and traditional catchwords. मतलब अब इसको लिटरेचर में रिज जेंजी यूज करते हैं. रिज विल बी अ वर्ड, प्रॉपर टेक्निकल वर्ड मे बी. So at the same time, once coined powerful new ideas attracted to themselves a whole host of seemingly unrelated issues. All right. वैसे पता है आकाश, एक बात बताऊं, रिज ऐसा वर्ड कभी नहीं बनेगा यार, ठीक है. अनकॉन्शियस और रिज में बहुत जमीन आसमान का फर्क है. Well, so unrelated issues, practices, and experiences, creating a peculiar network of preoccupations that as a group had not existed before. मतलब ये एक ही बात को बार बार बोल रहा है. समझ में आ रहा है? तुम लोग जैसे अभी किसी ने बोला कि मुझे लगा कि बिना कॉन्टेक्स्ट की गॉसिपिंग पढ़ रहा हूँ, किसी ने बोला कुछ समझ नहीं आया. समझ क्यों नहीं आया? कि उन्होंने बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स सेंटेंस स्ट्रक्चर है इसके अंदर, पर बात वो बार बार एक ही कर रहा है. अभी तक इसने नया कुछ बोला नहीं है, शुरुआत से लेके अभी तक जितना पढ़ चुका हूं मैं. फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ पूरा और सेकंड पैराग्राफ आधा. ये बोल रहा है कि अलग अलग तरीके से अलग अलग टाइप के लोगों ने अलग अलग प्रैक्टिसेस करके अल्टीमेटली ये वर्ड बनाया. बोलना यही चाह रहा है इतनी देर से. द ड्रॉन आउट अटेम्प्ट टू अप्रोच एंड डिफाइन the unconscious brought together the spiritualist and the physical researcher of borderline phenomena, such as apparitions, spectral illusions, haunted houses, mediums, trance, automatic writing. देखो फिर से वही हो गया. अभी भी इसने कुछ नहीं किया, एग्जाम्पल दे दिया कि देखो अब क्या, वो फिजिकल रिसर्चर, स्पिरिचुअलिस्ट, तांत्रिक, भूत प्रेत भगाने वाले लोग, जो बॉटलिंग फिनोमेनन देखते थे, जैसे एपरेशन हो गया, इल्यूशन हो गया कि सामने भूत घूम रहा है, हॉन्टेड हाउस है, मीडियम. व्हाट इज मीडियम? मीडियम होता है ना कि भाई, एक फिल्में देखी होंगी बहुत सारी, उसमें वेरोनिका एक मूवी थी कि मैं मीडियम हूँ, आके मिल लो अपने मरे हुए लोगों से. ऑल दैट स्टफ अपने आप चीजें लिखने लगी. द साइकियाट्रिस्ट और एलियनिस्ट probing the nature of mental disease, of abnormal ideation, hallucination, delirium, melancholia, mania, the surgeon performing operation with the rate of hypnotism, magnetizer claiming to correct the disequilibrium of the universal flow of magnetic fluids, but who soon came to be regarded as a clever manipulator of the imagination. अभी तक कुछ नई बात नहीं करी गई है. कुछ भी नया ऐसा नहीं बताया गया, मैं नहीं पता है, ठीक है ना. पता हो चाहे ना, बट द आइडिया इज स्टिल देयर, स्टिल दैट द जस्ट प्रूविंग सेम पॉइंट अगेन एंड अगेन एंड अगेन. द अभी रुका नहीं है. ये जो ऑथर है, ये बंदा ट्रांस में है इस टाइम पे. ओके, ही इज रियली हाई. The physiologist and the physician who puzzled over sleep, dream, sleepwalking, anesthesia, influence of mind on the body in health and disease. अब इसे रुक जाना चाहिए था, ये नहीं रुकेगा. ये बोलेगा द न्यूरोलॉजिस्ट कंसर्न विद द फंक्शंस ऑफ द ब्रेन एंड फिजियोलॉजिकल बेसिस ऑफ मेंटल लाइफ. अब तो रुक जा भाई, नहीं रुकेगा ये हाई है. द फिलोसोफर इंटरेस्टेड इन द विल, द इमोशंस, कॉन्शियसनेस, नॉलेज, इमेजिनेशन, क्रिएटिव जीनियस, लास्ट बट नॉट द लीस्ट द साइकोलॉजिस्ट. अब जाके रुका है ये. बहुत बहुत मस्त बंदा है, इसने कहानी लिखी है पूरी की पूरी. इसको बताना ये था, देखो फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ में, कि फ्रॉइडियन साइको एनालिसिस तक 100 साल बाद this term became, now you understood it. I'll repeat this in English in a quick way. So basically, in the first paragraph, it said whatever was just a fashionable term became a proper technical term by Freudian psychoanalysis and medical psychology. उस पूरी कहानी को 100 साल 200 साल कहानी को उसने सेकंड पैराग्राफ में बता दिया है। और ये रुका कब जाके, जब ये पहुंचा साइकोलॉजिस्ट पे। उसके पहले सारी बातों को इसने बोला गया। ठीक है। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? तो वैसे ही मैंने फर्क पढ़ लिया। ठीक है। सिग्निफिकेंटली मोस्ट इफ नॉट ऑल ऑफ दीज प्रैक्टिसेस, फॉर एग्जांपल हिप्नोटिज्म इन सर्जरीज, और फिर से वही बोल रहा है, originated in the waning years of 18th century, during the early decades of 19th century, as its some of disciplines such as psychology, physical research, majority of topics too were either new, assumed hitherto, unknown colors. Before 1790, few, if any, spoke in medical terms of the affinity between creative genius and hallucination. ठीक है। 17 पहले कोई बोलता था तो लोग उसे मानते नहीं थे, बोलते कि यार ये पता नहीं क्या अजीब सा आदमी है। ठीक है, ऑल दैट स्टफ। Striving vaguely and independently to give expression to a latent conception, various lines of thought can be brought together by some novel term. The new concept then serves a kind of resting place or stock taking, the development of ideas, giving satisfaction and a stimulus for further discussion or speculation. Thus, the massive introduction of the term unconscious by Hartman 1869 appeared to focalize. देखो, इतना कुछ की इतनी सारी चीजें होने के बाद जरूरत पड़ गई, अब तो एक टर्म ले ही आओ दोस्तों। जादू मंत्र तंत्र टोना टोटका सब कुछ हो चुका है। भूत प्रेत, कुछ तो ऐसा होना चाहिए जो सम एक्सप्लेन कर सके। तो टर्म बना अनकॉन्शियस बाय हार्टमैन in 1869, appeared to focalize many stray thoughts. Stray thoughts, the thoughts which had got no technical what do you say, authenticity. So focalize, मतलब focus वहां पहुंच गया। तो stray thoughts appear to be focalized because now there was a term, there's a need of creating a term, coining a term. So massive introduction. Hartman was the person who termed unconscious, affording a temporary feeling that a crucial step had been taken forward, a comprehensive knowledge gained, a knowledge that required only further elaboration, explication, and folding in order to bring in a boundary of higher understanding. So now when we have a term, we can start with this term. We can research on this term. So whatever the new practitioners, new disciplinarians, new scholars will be doing, now they have a term to start with, and that term is unconscious. All right. Ultimately, Hartman's attempt at defining the unconscious proved fruitless. यार पता है, जो कौन बोल रहा था ये, आयुष्मान बोल रहा था ना, कि बिना कॉन्टेक्स्ट के मैं वो पढ़ रहा था, गॉसिप। भाई भाई इतना सारा कांड किया, एंड में मालूम पड़ा वो फ्रूटलेस निकल गया। बिकॉज ही एक्सटेंडेड इट्स रीच इनटू एवरी realm of organic and organic, spiritual, intellectual, instinctive existence, severely diluting the precision and compromising the impact of the concept. गौरव, मतलब समझ गए कि क्या बोला सर ने? समझाया वैसे तो मैंने कुछ नहीं समझा, मतलब वैसे नहीं समझा था, या समझाया वो समझ गए। एग्जैक्टली, मैं भी नहीं समझा तुम क्या कहना चाह रहे हो। ओके। ये पढ़ते तेरे को हंसी आ गई पता है। इस बेचारे ने, हार्टमैन ने इतनी मेहनत कर डाली, और एंड में मालूम पड़ा कि कोई फायदा ही नहीं हुआ। क्यों? क्योंकि उस बंदे ने उस चीज को हर जगह यूज कर लिया, दुनिया के हर तरह की चीजों में यूज कर लिया। राइट। तो डाइल्यूट हो बेचारा टर्म को, ऑर्गेनिक इनऑर्गेनिक स्पिरिचुअल कॉस्मिक सब कुछ में यूज कर दिया। ऑलराइट। अगर इस पूरे पैसेज को मेरे को ना 3 लाइनों में बोलना हो, पता क्या बोलूंगा? अगर पहले नहीं समझा था, ओके। There was a term called unconscious, coined by Hartman in 1869, and he used it everywhere because a lot of other people who had got no term, but because he used it everywhere, this term got diluted until a century later, a man called Sigmund Freud came and gave it a proper, authentic meaning. Bas, khatam. This is the entire passage. बात समझ में आ गई? एक लाइन में मैंने पैसेज को खत्म कर चुका हूँ मैं। ऑल ऑफ यू गॉट दैट? अब तुम्हें जान के एक बताऊं सबसे कमाल की बात, इससे पहले दो हमने जो सवाल करे थे, दो पैसेज करे थे, वो मैंने बनाए थे। और जो ये पैसेज है, ये कैट में आया हुआ है, दिस इज PYQ। ठीक है ना? मतलब इतनी सारी चीजें बोल डाली हैं, पर काम की बात सिर्फ एक ही थी। ये बिल्कुल करना चाहिए गौरव, बहुत इजी पैसेज है ये, कुछ खास पढ़ना ही नहीं था इसके अंदर। चलो, फर्स्ट इज which one of the following sets of words is close to mapping the main arguments of the passage? Main arguments of the passage. Imagination, magnetism, psychiatry, unconscious latent conception, dreams, language, unconscious psychoanalysis, literary language, unconscious insanity। देखो पहली बात तो ये, मैग्नेटिज्म एंड साइकियाट्री कैन नॉट बी द मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, तो ये वैसे ही एलिमिनेट हो गया। देखो अभी क्या है कि क्या मेन कॉन्सेप्ट की मैपिंग होनी चाहिए हम बाद में करेंगे, पहले देखते हैं कि ऑप्शंस में मेन कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं भी कि नहीं। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? दैट इज हाउ यू आंसर द क्वेश्चन। सेकेंड, अनकॉन्शियस लेटेंट कॉन्सेप्शन, ड्रीम्स, ड्रीम्स जो है वो मेन आर्ग्यूमेंट नहीं है, तो ये भी खत्म हो गया। लैंग्वेज, हाँ लैंग्वेज, स्ट्रे लैंग्वेज थी, बहुत सारी चीजें थी। लेटेंट अनकॉन्शियस ये टर्म बना, फिर साइको एनालिसिस हुआ, ये किया था आपके फ्रॉड ने। सी सही लग रहा है मेरे को। डी है लिटरेरी लैंग्वेज, अनकॉन्शियस इंसैनिटी, insanity is not the main argument, option C. The thing here is you don't even have to map the passage. If you read the options, you will see one or two words are not even the main argument, let alone being the map. Do you understand that? आगे बात समझ, समझ गया ना? ये ऐसा पैसेज करना ही चाहिए, बहुत ही आसान सा है कि कुछ करना ही नहीं है इसके पैसेज के अंदर। ऑल ऑफ यू गॉट दैट? Second, which one of the following statements best describes unconscious part of the human's mind? First is discovery of the unconscious as a part of the human mind, ये best describe कर रहा है? यार बेस्ट डिस्क्राइब तो नहीं कर रहा है, तो बस बता रहा है कि क्या होता है ना। आगे, आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ अनकॉन्शियस एन ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ फिजिकल रिसर्च, साइकिकल रिसर्च, बेस्ट डिस्क्राइब व्हाट द पैसेज इज अबाउट। ओके, कोलेटिंग ऑफ डाइवर्स एरियाज इन अ सिंगल टर्म अनकॉन्शियस। थ्री ही तो है। इतनी लंबी कहानी पढ़ी थी किसी लिए? दुनिया भर की बकवास करने के बाद उसने बोल दिया कि भाई अनकॉन्शियस एक टर्म बनाया गया था जिसका मीनिंग कुछ था नहीं, और उसका मीनिंग बाद में फ्रॉइड ने दे दिया है। ग्रोइंग वोकैबुलरी ऑफ सोल माइंड एज, हटाओ इसको, ऑप्शन 3। मैं तो कह रहा हूँ ये सवाल ऐसे सवाल है मजा ही आ जाएगा। कुछ करना ही नहीं है इसके अंदर, फटाफट पैसेज पढ़ो, कुछ है नहीं पैसेज में खास पढ़ने के लिए, फर्स्ट पैराग्राफ पढ़ना है। बाकी सेकंड एंड थर्ड पैराग्राफ को तुम जब पढ़ोगे ना तुम्हें मालूम पड़ जाएगा, एक एक वर्ड पढ़ते पढ़ते आगे बढ़ जाओगे। 3 मिनट में पैराग्राफ खत्म, और अगले 3 मिनट में क्वेश्चंस भी खत्म। राइट? और ये एक्चुअल वो है, PYQ है, एक्चुअल कैट है जिसको लोग डिफिकल्ट बोलते रहते हैं। Next, the enrichments of literary and intellectual language led to an altered understanding of the meanings that underlie time-honored expressions and traditional catchwords. बहुत लंबी चौड़ी फैंसी वर्ड्स यूज किए गए हैं, इसका मतलब बहुत सिंपल होने वाला, देखना अभी। The meanings of time-honored expressions were changed by innovations in literary and intellectual language. Time-honored expressions and traditional catchwords were enriched by literary and intellectual language. Okay, देखो यहाँ पहले क्या है, meaning were changed, meanings were changed by innovations in literary and intellectual language. Second में बोल रहा है time-honored expressions and traditional catchwords were enriched by literary and intellectual language. Three बोल रहा है all the options listed here are true. Fourth says literary and intellectual language was altered by time-honored expressions and traditional catchwords. ठीक है ना? All right. ठीक है, तो क्या है इसमें? फिर से पढ़ते हैं एक बार, सेकेंड लाइन का सेकेंड पैर है ना। Enrichments of literary and intellectual language led to an altered understanding of meanings that underlie time-honored expressions, altered understanding of the meaning that underlie time-honored expressions and traditional catchwords. ठीक है. तो alter मतलब क्या होता है? Change करना. वर्ड प्ले है बिल्कुल योजक, देखो इसको भी आसान कर देते हैं. ऑल्टर का मतलब क्या होता है? चेंज करना. किस चीज को? टाइम ऑनर्ड एक्सप्रेशंस को. किस चीज से? लिटरेरी एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल लैंग्वेज से. पहला ऑप्शन बोल रहा है टाइम ऑनर्ड एक्सप्रेशंस वर चेंज्ड. कैसे? लिटरेरी लैंग्वेज से. ऑप्शन वन इज करेक्ट. सिंपल. इज दैट क्लियर? व्हाट वाज चेंज्ड? टाइम ऑनर्ड एक्सप्रेशंस. उसकी मीनिंग्स वर चेंज्ड. व्हाट चेंज्ड इट? The language. Which kind of language? Literary and intellectual language. That is what the this phrase actually meant. Is that clear, everyone? जल्दी से अपने स्कोर यहाँ पे बता दो सब लोग मेरे को फटाफट. Wow, 9. Do you think cat real PYQ was easier than the passages that I have made? And are you tired? If your answer is no, then क्या होगा? You're either lying or who will tell me that? Are you tired? If your answer is no, you're either lying or you are a grad schooler. हाँ. आकाश एक और था वो उसमें डाउनलोड करते टाइम हट गया. बट समझ में तो आ गया. Here comes the next one, which I have made, obviously. So I give you 3 minutes to solve to read this. But before that, I would like you to read the questions. First is which of the following best captures the author's view of morality? So morality is a timeless ideal rooted in human culture. It's a subjective construct shaped by context and history. It can be mathematically defined through consequences. It's an illusion created by philosophers. ठीक है. आगे देख लेते हैं. Author refers to Nietzsche primarily to show the culmination of moral relativism, illustrate a radical challenge to previous ethical systems, present a defense of moral nihilism, support Aristotle's conception of virtue. चारों ऑप्शन बहुत ही अलग अलग है तो आंसर करना आसान होगा. थर्ड, which of the following statements would the author most likely agree with? पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है क्योंकि तुम्हें पैसेज पढ़ने के बाद समझ में आएगा. Fourth, which what is implied by calling morality an aesthetic harmony? Ethics should be judged through art. Moral judgment involves balance, not formula. Beauty and morality are identical. Art can replace ethics entirely. ये चीजें हैं. So you have read the questions now, and I'm given 3 minutes to read the passage. I'll go on mute and I'll go invisible. Done. Let me open on a new screen where I can see the live chat because, okay. Oh, yes, I can see it on the new screen. Okay, cool. Here comes the first question. Question number two. Question number four. All right, I think all of you have done. Tell me your answers, be quick. चलो फटाफट मैं इसे सॉल्व करूंगा पहले मैं क्वेश्चंस पढ़ लूं फिर से एक बार जल्दी से which of the following best captures the author's view of morality so what do I want to find out I want to find out author's view ये दिमाग में रहना चाहिए मेरे कि मुझे ये फाइंड आउट करना है किसके बारे में मोरालिटी के बारे में ओके ठीक है पहला है टाइमलेस आइडियल रूटेड इन ह्यूमन नेचर सब्जेक्टिव कंस्ट्रक्ट शेप्ड बाय कॉन्टेक्स्ट एंड हिस्ट्री सब्जेक्टिव है ठीक है morality can be mathematically defined through consequences, illusion created by philosophers. You know what? Subjective construct, timeless ideal, illusion by देखो illusion तक ये थोड़ा सा वो था confusing था by philosophers मुझे मालूम पड़ जाएगा philosophers ने नहीं बनाया होगा तो ये now you know what to eliminate the wrong options will become easy for us if we read the options carefully पहला है ह्यूमन नेचर में आइडियल था दूसरा है सब्जेक्टिव कंस्ट्रक्ट है तीसरा है मैथमेटिकल डेफिनेशन है चौथा है फिलोसफर्स ने बनाया हुआ था ठीक है रिल्यूजन फिर ये बोल रहा है नीचा के प्रेफर क्यों रेफर किया गया जहां पर मालूम पड़ जाएगा कल्बिनेशन ऑफ मॉरल रिलेटिविज्म इलस्ट्रेटेड रेडिकल चेंज टू प्रीवियस एथिकल सिस्टम्स ठीक है प्रेजेंट डिफेंस ऑफ मॉरल नाइलिज्म सपोर्ट एरिस्टोटल्स कॉन्सेप्शन ऑफ वर्च्यू बहुत इजीली मालूम पड़ जाएगा हमें ये बात को फिर है ऑथर किससे लाइकली एग्री करेगा एथिकल सिस्टम्स रिवील मोर अबाउट ह्यूमन साइकोलॉजी देन अबाउट मॉरल ट्रूथ search for good must begin with religious doctrine okay religious doctrine utilitarianism solves most ethical पैराडॉक्सिस हमें देखना पड़ेगा। गुड इज आइडेंटिकल टू द प्लेजरेबल। फिर ये बोल रहा है एस्थेटिक, व्हाट इज एस्थेटिक? समथिंग फुल ऑफ ब्यूटी, हार्मनी व्हेन समथिंग इज बैलेंसिंग। फर्स्ट सेज ethics should be judged through art. Moral judgment involves balance, not formula. Beauty, morality are identical. Art can replace ethics entirely. अगर मैं पैसेज ना पढूं तब भी मैं बी मार्क कर दूंगा। क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पे हार्मनी और बैलेंस ऑलमोस्ट सेम है। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? यस और नो? वी डोंट नो वेदर बी इज करेक्ट और नॉट, बट मुझे बी सही लग रहा है, पढ़ते ही हार्मनी बैलेंस दिखाई दे रहा है। ठीक है, चलो अब आगे हम देखते हैं फटाफट। Let's read the passage. Moral philosophy has long sought a universal definition of the good, but every attempt to fix its meaning seems to unravel under scrutiny. ठीक है, डेफिनेशन हमें मिल नहीं पा रही है। किसकी नहीं मिल पा रही है? मॉरल फिलोसफी की। एरिस्टोटल आइडेंटिफाइड द गुड विद द फुलफिलमेंट ऑफ पर्पस। एरिस्टोटल के अकॉर्डिंग पर्पस फिल करना ही good है, a teleological vision in which every being achieves excellence by realizing its nature. For humans, that excellence was rational activity performed in accordance with the virtue. Yet this seemingly elegant account soon invites skepticism. What if human nature itself is undefined or evolving? जो humans कर रहे हैं ठीक है, but क्या पता humans ही undefined है। तो ये एक प्रॉब्लम थी इस थॉट में। ओके, centuries later, John Stuart Mill replaced the Aristotelian pursuit of virtue with the calculus of pleasure. The the good, he argued, is whatever maximizes happiness. यहाँ पे मैथमेटिकल कर दिया इन्होंने। मृदुल, द पैसेजेस, द क्वेश्चंस आर 450 to 600 वर्ड्स। जितने पैसेज मैंने यहाँ बनाए हुए हैं ये सारे के सारे 500 वर्ड के आसपास है। ठीक है, और जो पीवाईक्यू था जो मैंने दिया था वो एग्जैक्टली 510 या 20 वर्ड्स का था। ठीक है, वो पिछले साल का पीवाईक्यू है, तो जो लेंथ दिख रही है बिल्कुल सही लेंथ है। अब this utilitarian simplicity appealed to modern sensibilities that weren't quantifiable results or metaphysical speculation. Obviously, something that is quantifiable is totally accepted. However, it also collapsed moral traps into arithmetic. Can justice, love, courage be measured by aggregate satisfaction? इसका मतलब मैथमेटिकल वाली बात तो गलत हो जाती है। कहीं पे थी ना मैथमेटिकल, तो सी जो है वो पक्का गलत है। देखो ये पक्का गलत है। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? सही क्या पता नहीं, बट सी गलत है मालूम पड़ गया। आगे बढ़ते हैं। नीट्शे's critique dismantled both classical and modern moral optimism. इन्होंने क्लासिकल पुराने और मॉरल दोनों को ही डिसमेंटल कर दिया। ओके, मुझे आंसर मिल चुका है इस सवाल का। देखो इस तरह ये जल्द, अब मैं सिखा रहा हूँ तुम्हें। अभी तक मैंने क्या सिखाया? बहुत ही ध्यान से। अब मैंने सिखाया किस तरह से हम स्कोर मैक्सिमाइज करें, टाइम कम बचे हमारे पास। मेरी स्पीड बढ़ गई एकदम से, तो मैं ये चीज फील हो रही होगी। नीट्शे को बताया लाया गया था इलस्ट्रेट रेडिकल चेंज टू प्रीवियस इथिकल सिस्टम्स। बिल्कुल सही बात है, यही सही है। मैं इसको करूंगा ही नहीं। समझ में आ गई बात? दैट इज हाउ आई कैन डू थिंग्स। कूल, डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? आगे बढ़ते हैं। टू हिम द गुड वाज नॉट डिस्कवरी बट इन्वेंशन। ज्यादा पढ़ूंगा इनके बारे में नहीं पढ़ूंगा। स्लेव मोरालिटी ही रोट हैड पॉइजन द क्रिएटिव इंस्टिंक्ट्स ह्यूमैनिटी। ठीक है, ये पूरा नीचे के बारे में है, हम आंसर कर चुके हैं। आगे बढ़ते हैं। फिलोसॉफिकल क्वेस्ट फॉर गुड देयरफॉर मिरर्स द ह्यूमन डिजायर फॉर सर्टेनिटी एंड केओस। ओके, फिलोसॉफिकल क्वेस्ट फॉर गुड, जो गुड करने की वो है इच्छा है, वो इंसान की सर्टेनिटी ढूंढने जैसा है। केओटिक केओस में हम सर्टेनिटी ढूंढ ले तो वही अच्छी बात है। टू डिफाइन द गुड यूनिवर्सली मे बी इम्पॉसिबल प्रिसाइसली बिकॉज मोरालिटी इज द नेम वी गिव टू कंपीटिंग इंटरप्रिटेशंस ऑफ पावर। कि मोरालिटी क्या है वही डिफाइन नहीं है, तो गुड डिफाइन कैसे करेंगे मोरालिटी के थ्रू? ओके, एम्पैथी एंड ऑर्डर। परहैप्स द गुड, if it exists, is not an objective state but an ongoing negotiation. ये चलता ही जा रहा है और एक जगह नहीं है, ये लगातार चल रहा है ना? An aesthetic harmony between self assertion and compassion, individual and collective need। यहीं से मालूम पड़ चुका है हमें। ये मालूम पड़ चुका है, क्या मालूम पड़ चुका है हमें? ये मालूम पड़ चुका है कि जो मोरालिटी है वो सब्जेक्टिव कंस्ट्रक्ट है, कॉन्टेक्स्ट और हिस्ट्री के अकॉर्डिंग। लास्ट लाइन में क्लियर मेंशन कर दिया गया है, तो हमें ज़्यादा मेहनत करनी नहीं है। हमने बी मार्क करना है, आगे बढ़ना है। यहाँ पे बी मार्क कर चुके हैं ऑलरेडी हम लोग। इधर क्या था, किससे वो अग्री करेगा? फोर्थ क्या था? एस्थेटिक हार्मनी। तो मैंने फॉर्मूला पहले ही बैलेंस वाला मार्क कर दिया था, वो बिल्कुल सही निकला है ना? क्यों बैलेंस है? एस्थेटिक हार्मनी between self-assertion and compassion. So it involves balance, not formula. ये क्यों हमने रिजेक्ट किया नॉट फॉर्मूला? बिकॉज सेकेंड वाले में एरिस्टोटल के थ्रू वो मैथमेटिक्स की बात आ गई थी। अब बचा केवल सी, सिर्फ एक सवाल बचा है जो हमें करना है। इसमें बोल रहा है कि ऑथर इसमें से किससे अग्री करेगा। ठीक है। तो ये जो है हर एक स्टेटमेंट पे डिपेंडेंट है। ये क्वेश्चन पहला बोल रहा है एथिकल सिस्टम्स रिवील मोर अबाउट ह्यूमन साइकोलॉजी एंड अबाउट मॉरल ट्रूथ। बिल्कुल सही बात है कि ऑथर का कहना है कि एथिकल systems cannot actually define truth because they are governed by human psychology. So A looks correct to me. Let's read B. Search for good must begin with religious doctrine. Religious बात ही नहीं की गई है। B is eliminated. Nice. यूटिलिटेरियनिज्म सॉल्व्स मोस्ट सक्सेसफुल नहीं कर पाता, तभी तो आगे बढ़ना पड़ा हमें। गुड इज आइडेंटिकल टू द प्लेजरेबल, नॉट रियली, इट्स प्लेजरेबल बट द प्रॉब्लम इज विद, ये बहुत ही जेनरिक सा स्टेटमेंट है। ऑथर इससे बहुत ज़्यादा अग्री नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि यहाँ पे एक बेटर स्टेटमेंट हमारे पास दिया हुआ था, वो है ए है, बिकॉज इट रिवील्स मोर ह्यूमन साइकोलॉजी देन मॉरल ट्रूथ। दैट्स ऑल। सो व्हाट आई डिड हियर इज अ क्विक फायर. So I am preparing you for all sorts of instances which can happen, you know. So as the time progresses, what can be done? So now you know what has to be done if you have very less time, or what kind of questions have to be selected. Is that clear? देखा, क्वेश्चन ध्यान से पढ़े, ऑप्शंस ध्यान से पढ़े, और उन ऑप्शंस को मैंने माइंड में मैप कर लिया। हालांकि यहाँ पेपर नहीं है, पेपर में तुम लिख भी सकते हो। क्वेश्चन वन के ऑप्शन 1 2 3 4 ये बातें कही गई हैं। वन किस बारे में था, एक या दो वर्ड। ऑप्शन किस बारे में थे, उसके एक या दो वर्ड। चारों क्वेश्चंस को लिख लो अपने पेपर में, पैसेज पढ़ो, फटाफट मार्क कर चले जाओ। इज दैट क्लियर ऑल ऑफ यू? डिड यू लाइक दिस अप्रोच? अभी ओ नाइस, लेट्स गो टू नेक्स्ट वन। अभी नीचा के ऊपर ही है। द टाइम स्टार्ट्स नाउ, आई विल गिव यू 3 minutes टू रीड दिस। या हे Arithro, you're a bit late to the class. It's all right. चलो टाइम अप। नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन। Next question. How do you like this passage? Like, while you obviously solved the questions and read the passage, but did you take home something with this? Such a nice passage. And Frederick Nietzsche is a great philosopher of his time, in fact, till date. Okay, before going on further, let me explain the passage to you quickly. Very quick recap. For Nietzsche, ये बोलते हैं नीट्शे नहीं बोलते हैं नीट्शे फॉर नीट्शे पावर इज नॉट अ पॉलिटिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट बट अ मेटाफिजिकल पल्स ओह कूल यही बात शुरू कर देखो पहली लाइन ही पावरफुल है कि देखो भाई जो ताकत है ना वो पॉलिटिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट नहीं है वो राजनीतिक तरीका नहीं है लोगों पे किसी भी चीज को मतलब हासिल करने का ये एक मेटाफिजिकल पल्स है ये हमारे अंदर बहुत अंदर छुपी हुई है द फंडामेंटल ड्राइव एनिमेटिंग ऑल लाइफ द विल टू पावर इज नॉट merely craving dominate others देखो जल्दी पढ़ेंगे not merely craving to dominate others it is the impulse to expand overcome transcend limitation in this sense even art science and morality are sublimated forms of this will creative assertions of strength disguises virtue or reason so basically the fundamental drive power will to power is essentially an impulse to create something to create value clear that is what first paragraph talks about second he rejects the traditional moral dichotomy that opposes power to goodness. तो क्या होता है कि जो पावरफुल हैं वो पावरलेस को दबाएंगे ये डाइकोटोमी है व्हाट इज डाइकोटोमी टू काइंड्स ऑफ थिंग्स द डाइकोटोमी दैट ओके जैसे 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 अश्लील ग्रोवर की भाषा में दोगलापन कहते हैं ओके सो इट्स पावर इट्स टू ऑपरेस opposes power to goodness not really power and goodness are not two different things. They can be same. Weakness, Nietzsche argues, has masqueraded as virtue precisely by moralizing its importance. So weak people or the weakness, it says, okay, we are more moral, that is why we are poor or we are powerless. They feel that all the people who have got power are evil people, right? That's a dichotomy. The meek call their submission humility. कमजोर लोग बोलते हैं कि भाई देखो हम ना हम बहुत हम्बल लोग हैं इसलिए हम सबमिट करते हैं. द कॉशियस कॉल देयर फियर प्रूडेंस. गेटिंग इट. Through this transvaluation, the powerful are condemned for their vitality, while the timid are sanctified for their restraint. अमीर गरीब की लड़ाई में कोर्ट हमेशा गरीब को फैसला देगा. You getting it? The genealogy of morals exposes this inversion as the revenge of the powerless upon the strong. इस पे क्वेश्चन पूछा गया यहाँ पे. However, Nietzsche's critique is not an invitation to cruelty, but to authenticity. It's not that he's talking some evil things. It's cruel. Not really. He's being authentic. He asks humanity to affirm life in its totality, its pain, contradiction, and ecstasy, that appealing to transcendent justifications, the overman, overmensch, उनकी भाषा में, embodies this affirmation, a being who creates values rather than inherits them. ये एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट बात है. बचपन से मैं सोचता था, सुनकर जो अजीब लगेगा, मैं बोलता था अपने पापा मम्मी से कि यार मैं ना कार चलाने का मेरा हक ही नहीं है अगर मैं कार बना नहीं पाया तो. ये तो एक साइंटिस्ट ने बनाई थी ना, और किसी बिजनेसमैन ने उस साइंटिस्ट से बात करके उसको बेचना शुरू कर दिया. उसको फायदा किसको हो गया? बिजनेसमैन को. साइंटिस्ट ने तो बनाई होगी शायद खुद के चलने के लिए, उसका फायदा भी हुआ होगा, बट मेरी कैसे हिम्मत है उस कार में बैठने जो साइंटिस्ट ने बनाई थी. बचपन में सोचता था मैं, आज मैं समझता हूँ कि ठीक है, इंडस्ट्रीज आर देयर, बट urban man philosophy probably यही थी, है ना. So for such a figure, morality is not a set of commandments but a canvas of possibilities. All right. The will to power therefore is not a doctrine of domination but a metaphysics of creativity. To exist is to interpret, to shape, to impose meaning. समझ में आ गया? क्रिएटिविटी की बात हो रही है. Every judgment, every act of naming is an act of power. Noblest expression of power is creation, not coercion. Nietzsche's revolution lies in transforming the instinct to control into the will to create, thereby restoring vitality to civilization suffocated by guilt. You don't have to be guilty if you're powerful. Okay, you just need to create values, and that is what power essentially means. That is the entire passage. Coming to first question, the author's primary purpose in the passage is to defend the pursuit of power as a moral ideal, clarify Nietzsche's concept of power as creative, not oppressive, criticize moral values inherently corrupt, promote the idea of absolute freedom without restraint. पहले सी तो पहले तो गलत ही है. प्राइमरी पर्पस दूर की बात है, वैसे भी गलत है ना. बाकी ऑथर का प्राइमरी पर्पस क्या था? उन्होंने शुरू किया नीचा से. सेकंड पैराग्राफ में उन्होंने ही यूज किया हुआ है. उसके बाद फिर से हाउएवर नीचा यूज किया गया है. फिर उसके बाद फिर से नीचा यूज किया. तो बेसिकली ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट नीचा, नॉट अबाउट एनीथिंग एल्स. सो बी इज द मोस्ट करेक्ट, मोस्ट प्लॉसिबल चॉइस. इज नॉट डिफेंडिंग परस्यूट ऑफ पावर एज अ मॉरल आइडियल, नो. क्योंकि और बहुत सारी बातें करी गई हैं. दैट्स नॉट द प्राइमरी पर्पस. द प्राइमरी पर्पस टू एक्सप्लेन व्हाट नीचा थॉट. ओके, फ्रीडम विदाउट रिस्ट्रेंट आइडिया नहीं है very. Yes, that is so. Next, Nietzsche's phrase transvaluation of virtues refers to what? Transvaluation of virtues. ये वहां बात थी जहाँ पे वीक लोग थे जो बात कर रहे थे, right? तो the reinterpretation of moral virtues by the weak to suppress strength. यही तो है transvaluation of values. It's clearly mentioned, in the second paragraph. एकदम मैपिंग चल रही है. सेकंड पैराग्राफ जो है वो सेकंड क्वेश्चन सेकंड पैराग्राफ पे बेस्ड है. दूसरा बोल रहा है रिस्टोरेशन ऑफ ट्रेडिशनल रशियन सोसाइटी. नहीं. सी, मॉरल प्यूरिफिकेशन ऑफ पॉलिटिक्स थ्रू रिलीजन. पॉलिटिक्स की बातें लिखी गई है, नहीं हो सकता. एक्सेप्टेंस ऑफ यूनिवर्सल कंपैशन एज द हाईएस्ट वैल्यू. नहीं. ये कहाँ पे था? सी, इट्स गिवन हियर. थ्रू दिस ट्रांसवैल्यूएशन the powerful are condemned for their vitality. Okay, the meek call their submission humility, the cautious call their fear prudence, while the timid are sanctified for their restraint. So the reinterpretation of moral virtues by the weak to suppress strength. That's a transvaluation of the values. Cool. Coming to the next one. Uh, ये तो हो गया. दो बार लिखा है same question. Okay. Third, the overman in the passage symbolizes a creator. Ruthless conqueror? No. Religious figure? No. Creator? Yes. Leader? No. Simple. Fourth, author's attitude towards traditional morality is best described as traditional morality. Disdainful yet analytical, reverent and nostalgic, playful but accepting, indifferent and neutral. It's not playful. No, 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 no. क्योंकि यहाँ पे उन्होंने बोला गया है कि मोरालिटी में जो वीक हैं उसको अलग इंटरप्रेट करते हैं, स्ट्रॉन्ग अलग इंटरप्रेट करते हैं. Indifferent neutral, he's not indifferent. He has, that is the reason why he's quoting Nietzsche everywhere. He's not indifferent. ए और बी. रेवरेंट. रेवरेंट क्या वो उस बात की इज्जत कर रहे हैं? बिल्कुल कर रहे हैं. नॉस्टैल्जिक हैं क्या? हो भी सकते हैं. पर किसकी तरफ है? नीट्शा की तरफ, ना कि ट्रेडिशनल मोरालिटी की तरफ. दैट इज वाई बी इज रॉन्ग, ए इज करेक्ट. ही इज फुल ऑफ डिस्डेन फॉर ट्रेडिशनल मोरालिटी बिकॉज दैट कैन बी reinforced, reinterpreted, manipulated in a different way that is very disdainful and at the very same time analytical as well. Totally disdainful भी नहीं है वो, analytical भी है. Clear? Got it, everyone? Coming to passage number 6. Time starts now. 2.5 minutes. जल्दी से पहले क्वेश्चंस पढ़ लेते हैं. पहला क्वेश्चन क्या है? द सेंट्रल डिस्टिंक्शन emphasized by Searle's argument is between consciousness and intelligence, syntax and semantics, emotion and logic, knowledge and belief. इन वर्ड्स को हम ढूंढते रहेंगे. आगे. According to functionalism, consciousness may arise from. तो functionalism आएगा तो हमें ध्यान देना है इस बात पे. Emotional depth and empathy, presence of a metaphysical soul, sufficiently complex information processing, divine intervention through evolution. Third is author's tone towards anthropocentrism is critical, viewing it as an intellectual limitation, supportive, defending human uniqueness, neutral, merely descriptive, humorous and dismissive. ठीक है. Phrase the last fortress of mystery implies that. जो पढ़ेंगे तो समझ में आएगा, अभी समझ में नहीं आएगा. Let's read the passage now. कुछ क्वेश्चन ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे हमें ऑप्शंस नहीं पढ़ने होते हैं. वो समझ पहले ही समझा चुका हूँ और हर एक RC 99 के सेशन में समझाऊंगा. ठीक है. योजक हाँ कर पाएंगे ना. पेपर में लिख लोगे पहले ही. क्वेश्चन का 2 वर्ड्स, ऑप्शन के 2 वर्ड्स. चलो एक काम करूंगा, पैसेज 7 में करके दिखाऊंगा. ठीक है योजक, इसी बात को. योर टाइम स्टार्ट्स नाउ. 2 minutes to read the passage. 2.5 minutes. नहीं आकाश PYQ नहीं है, मैंने बनाया है ये. इसमें सिर्फ एक PYQ, बाकी सारे के सारे मैंने बनाए हैं, खुद से बनाए हैं ब्रो. इसी बात पे मेरे को लाइक्स मिल जाने चाहिए. कभी देखा है ऐसा कोई जो खुद से क्वेश्चन बनाए, पैसेज बनाए और फिर पढ़ाए? क्योंकि मुझे वो चाहिए था कि ओरिजिनल चीजें हो. PYQ तो तुम लोग कर ही लेते खुद से, मैंने एक बार वोटिंग भी ले लिया था. तो जहाँ PYQ जिस ईयर कम किए गए वही ईयर मैंने डाल दिया, पिछले साल नहीं डाला मैंने जानबूझ के. और जो कॉन्टेंट बिल्कुल ऐसा हो जो तुम्हें कैट के लिए तैयार करे. एनीवेज, टाइम स्टार्ट्स नाउ. All right, let's start. Hmm. The modern fascination with AI resurrects one of philosophy's पहले मैं questions पढ़ पढ़ लिया ना मैंने, हाँ ठीक है पढ़ लिया. The modern fascination with AI resurrects one of philosophy's oldest puzzles, the nature of consciousness. ठीक है, किस बारे में बात हो रही है? Nature of consciousness, यही modern fascination. ठीक है. Machines now outperform humans in calculation, pattern recognition, even linguistic mimicry. ठीक है. Yet the crucial question remains, do they understand? अच्छा एक बताऊं मैं तुम्हें, बहुत ध्यान सुनना मेरी बात को. तुम्हें भले लग रहा हो कि हम एक दो लाइन पढ़ लेंगे, एक लाइन इधर की एक लाइन उधर की और आंसर कर देंगे. तुमने अगर ये गलती कर दी कैट के अंदर, तो याद रखना गलत हो जाएगा. पैसेज पूरा पढ़ डालो, अपनी स्पीड को इम्प्रूव कर डालो, ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. ठीक है, जिस तरह पढ़ रहा हूँ वैसे पढ़ना बहुत ज़रूरी है, बहुत ज़रूरी है. गौरव क्वेश्चन से भी आएंगे फिर कर लेना, ठीक है. भले जल्दी जल्दी पढ़ लो, कुछ चीज़ें ऐसी होंगी जो शायद इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट ना हो, जैसे पिछले वाले में बहुत सारे एग्जाम्पल थे फिर भी मैंने पढ़ा. ये नहीं कि ये बेकार बेकार में छोड़ा नहीं, जरूरी है यहाँ पे. ठीक है, ऑल ऑफ यू, इज दैट अंडरस्टूड? टेल मी यस और नो. John Searle's Chinese room thought experiment illustrates the dilemma. Imagine a person inside a locked room, mechanically manipulating Chinese symbols using a rule book without knowing their meaning. To an observer outside, the responses appear intelligent, yet comprehension is absent. तो ऐसा ही एआई क्या पता करता हो. अंदर बैठा जो इंसान कर रहा है तुम्हें बाहर देख लग रहा है इट्स इंटेलिजेंट, बट प्रोबेबली इट्स नॉट. ठीक है. This distinction between syntax and semantics, between manipulating signs and grasping meaning, underscores the limits of computation. Underscores the limits of computation. ऑलराइट, लग रहा है मुझे यहीं से आंसर मिल चुका है पहले वाले का. फिर भी आगे पढ़ता हूँ मैं. A program में simulate understanding without processing it. Consciousness then cannot be reduced to algorithmic processes. It involves subjective experience, what philosophers call qualia. So basically, program cannot have the subjective experience, you know. ठीक है, आगे कहीं भी बात की नहीं गई है. देखता हूँ, पहला सवाल था central distinction emphasized by Searle's argument is between syntax and semantics. First question done. Is that clear? Hey, hello Tejeshwar. Is that clear? Next one. आगे बढ़ते हैं. However, functionalists counter that if behavior and output are indistinguishable, behavior and output are indistinguishable. अगर ऐसा है, from genuine understanding, the distinction may be irrelevant. Functionalists ये बोलते हैं कि अगर behavior output indistinguishable है, उसे हम अलग नहीं कर सकते, अंतर नहीं ढूंढ सकते, genuine understanding के बाद, तो ये डिस्टिंक्शन इररेलेवेंट है. भाई हमें मतलब नहीं ढूंढ पाए तो किसी काम का ही नहीं है, राइट? अच्छा, ऐसा क्वेश्चन था फंक्शनलिस्ट के बारे में. अकॉर्डिंग टू फंक्शनलिज्म, कॉन्शियसनेस में अराइज फ्रॉम, अभी पता नहीं चल रहा, आगे पढ़ लेते हैं. ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लम. हम्म. Irrelevant if consciousness is not a metaphysical spark but an emergent property of complexity, then sufficiently advanced machines could indeed wake up. The mind in this view is not an immaterial soul, but a pattern of information flow, replicable, transferable, perhaps even improvable. तो यहाँ बोल दिया है, फंक्शनलिस्ट ने ये बोल चुके हैं कि भाई हो सकता है कि मशीन्स एक दिन जग जाएं, ठीक वैसे से इंसान जग चुका था. ये चीज़ कैसे होगी? By lot of information processing. If you keep on giving data, process, going on at one point of time, सो बेसिकली कॉन्शियसनेस अगर मेटाफिजिकल स्पार्क नहीं है, कैसे मालूम पड़ा कि बिहेवियर और आउटपुट को आप डिस्टिंग्विश नहीं कर सकते, इसका मतलब कॉन्शियसनेस एक मेटाफिजिकल स्पार्क नहीं है और वो प्रॉपर्टी है कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी की. तो एडवांस मशीन्स इस कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी को रेप्लिकेट कर सकते हैं. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि कॉन्शियसनेस में अराइज फ्रॉम इमोशनल डेप्थ एंड एम्पैथी, नो. प्रेजेंस ऑफ मेटाफिजिकल सोल, नो. सफिशिएंटली कॉम्प्लेक्स इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोसेसिंग, यस. डिवाइन इंटरवेंशन, ये तो अपने आप में एक मजा आ गया है ना. ये वाला, भगवान कहाँ से बीच में आएंगे. ओके, कूल. ठीक है. हाँ आकाश, लेकिन फिर भी एक बार जल्दी से पढ़ लो. देयर इज नो लॉस इन दैट. क्वेश्चंस पढ़ने से मालूम पड़ जाएगा, ठीक है, बट आमतौर पे हमें पढ़ना चाहिए. 90% केसेस में पूरा पढ़ना चाहिए. आगे देखते हैं. ऑथर्स टर्न टुवर्ड एंथ्रोपोसेंट्रिज्म, अभी आया नहीं है हमारे इसमें, ठीक है, आगे पढ़ते रहते हैं. अब क्या बोल रहा है? The argument reveals an epistemic impasse. We recognize consciousness only from within. We infer it in others by analogy, not direct evidence. ठीक है, तो हमें जो लगता है कि हम जो फील कर रहे हैं, है ना, उस हिसाब से हमारा कॉन्शियसनेस बनता है। दूसरे लोग अगर वह वैसे कुछ काम कर रहे हैं तभी हम समझेंगे वो भी ऐसा कर रहे हैं। अगर मैं मानता हूँ कि किसी को कोई तुमसे तुम्हें गाली दे, थप्पड़ मार देना एक अच्छी चीज है, तो दूसरे लोग थप्पड़ अगर नहीं मार रहे गाली सुनने पे, तो मैं उन्हें गलत समझूंगा। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? सिंपलेस्ट एग्जाम्पल। तो वी इन्फर इट इन अदर्स बाय एनालॉजी, नॉट डायरेक्ट एविडेंस। एविडेंस नहीं है, थप्पड़ मार देना गाली देने के बाद अच्छी बात है कि नहीं। मैं मारता हूँ, तो मेरे दोस्त अगर मार रहे हैं, जो मार रहे हैं मेरे दोस्त बन जाएंगे। दोस्ती ऐसी ही होती थी बचपन में, तुम्हें याद होगा, राइट? तो thus to deny awareness to machines may reflect not proof but prejudice, an anthropocentric assumption that intelligence must feel like ours. इससे सिंपल एग्जाम्पल कोई हो नहीं सकता। So author's tone towards anthropocentrism is critical, viewing it as an intellectual limitation. Looks correct. Intelligence must feel like ours, limitation है। Supportive, डिफेंडिंग ह्यूमन यूनिकनेस नहीं कर रहा, वो तो बोल रहा है भाई हम ऐसा नहीं करते हैं, एंथ्रोपोसेंट्रिज्म हम तो एग्जाम्पल से करते हैं। न्यूट्रल नहीं है। ह्यूमरस तो, ह्यूमरस है क्या? ह्यूमरस तो जो मैंने एग्जाम्पल दिया वो था, ये नहीं था। ठीक है, सो ए इज द आंसर। अरे मुझे यार इतना मस्त एग्जाम्पल दिया, कुछ हंस दो, स्माइल कर दो, लाइक कर दो, कुछ तो कर दो यार। ऐसे तुम लोग क्यों स्टैचूज की तरह? कुछ तो शो करो कि हाँ यार बंदा जिंदा है, तो जिंदा नजर आना जरूरी है। मैं जानता हूँ तुम थक चुके हो, लेकिन थकने के बाद जब दिमाग खुलता है, जब यू बॉटम हिट, उसके बाद जो करोगे, या तो बिल्कुल खत्म हो जाओगे या बहुत बड़े बन जाओगे। तो वही मैं तुम्हें जानने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, हंसी मजाक भी कर रहे हैं थोड़ा बहुत, कुछ हंस बस दो भाई लोग। क्वेश्चन नंबर 4, द फ्रेज द लास्ट फोर्ट्रेस ऑफ मिस्ट्री अभी तक आया नहीं है, आगे पढ़ते हैं। Whether machines can dream, therefore is not a technological question, but a philosophical one. It asks whether understanding is something we do or something we are. Hmm. If it is the latter, latter मतलब दूसरा वाला, latter कौन सा कि something we are, then consciousness will remain the last fortress of mystery, the one frontier algorithms cannot conquer, not because they lack power, but because they lack perspective. अगर वो अगर 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 you know machines can dream, ये क्वेश्चन है, ये क्वेश्चन टेक्नोलॉजिकल नहीं है, फिलोसफिकल बन चुका है कि ये समझना कि व्हाट इज अंडरस्टैंडिंग। अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज व्हाट वी डू और व्हाट वी आर। इफ it is what we are, then it will always remain a mystery, and machines cannot do that. Is that clear, everyone? ठीक है। तो कॉन्शियसनेस में अल्टीमेटली मैकेनाइज, कॉन्शियसनेस रेजिस्ट्स फुल साइंटिफिक रिडक्शन। philosophers should abandon consciousness studies. Machines are already conscious in some form. See, तो बहुत एक्सट्रीम है। ठीक है। Last fortress of mystery. Consciousness will remain the last fortress of mystery. The fun frontier versions cannot conquer. फ्रंटियर कैनॉट कॉन्कर मतलब साइंस इसे नहीं कर पाएगा कुछ, ठीक है। सो कॉन्शियसनेस रेजिस्ट फुल साइंटिफिक रिडक्शन, पूरी तरह साइंटिफिकली हो ही नहीं पाएगा इफ कॉन्शियसनेस इज व्हाट वी आर। इफ इट वाज व्हाट वी डू देन इट वाज पॉसिबल। इज दैट क्लियर? 10 मिनट्स पर सेट मृदुल, एट मैक्स। अब समझ में आ गया आकाश? अच्छा, अरित्रो वाज सेइंग कि सर एक एआई का आरसी करा देना, तो मैंने देखो फिलोसफी के अंदर ही एआई डाल दिया। अरित्रो and others. I don't think you guys were, expecting that I'll mix philosophy with AI. 10 मिनट्स मैक्स बोला अभी मैंने, इसीलिए मैक्स बोला है ना। चलो, पैसेज नंबर 7। पैसेज पढ़ लो पहले, क्वेश्चन पढ़ लो पहले। लंबा पैसेज है थोड़ा सा ये। Author suggests that primary value of philosophy lies in its ability to, क्वेश्चन पढ़, ऑप्शन पढ़ने का फायदा नहीं है कि पहले तुम्हें पूरा पढ़ना पड़ेगा। प्राइमरी वैल्यू की बात हो रही है, मेन आइडिया की बात है। Which of the following unstated assumptions underlies the author's argument? आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या है पता ही नहीं है, तो हम ये कैसे पढ़ पाएंगे? नहीं पढ़ सकते। थर्ड, which of the following statements would most weaken the author's claim about philosophy's necessity? क्या क्लेम है पता ही नहीं है, तो पढ़ ही नहीं पाएंगे। भाई दो क्वेश्चन क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग के हो चुके हैं। मृदुल हाँ, 8 मिनट्स एवरेज होना चाहिए। द फाइनल पैराग्राफ मैं सॉल्व एज वेल बोल रहा था भाई, 10 मिनट पढ़ना और सॉल्व करना, 10 मिनट मैक्सिमम। द फाइनल पैराग्राफ जस्ट पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा। एक चीज देख रहे हो, ये ऐसे सवाल है कि कोई भी सवाल कि ऑप्शन तुम पढ़ नहीं सकते वरना बर्बाद हो जाओगे। दूसरी बात ये कि इसमें पहला वाला तो था, वो एक इन्फ्रेंस बेस्ड क्वेश्चन है। दूसरा वाला क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग क्वेश्चन है। तीसरा भी क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग क्वेश्चन है। चौथा अल्टीमेट पर्पस ये इन्फ्रेंस वाला क्वेश्चन है। इसमें कोई भी क्वेश्चन कॉन्टेक्चुअल वोकैबुलरी डायरेक्ट डेटा ड्रिवन नहीं है। ये बात समझ में आई तुम्हें? ये इसका मतलब क्या हुआ कि ये वो आरसी है जिस आरसी को हमें रियल कैट में बिल्कुल एंड में करना चाहिए, और टाइम नहीं बचे तो करना ही नहीं चाहिए। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट, यस और नो, टेल मी। तो एक आरसी मैंने आठवां और नौवां आरसी ऐसा ही बनाया है जो डिफिकल्ट कर दो। डिफिकल्ट कैसे किया? क्रिटिकल रीजनिंग डाल दी। यहाँ पे तुम कोई तुक्का, कोई गेस वर्क, कोई शोशाबाजी नहीं कर सकते कि मैं तो आरसी पढ़ूंगा ही नहीं, मैं तो फर्स्ट लाइन पढ़ लूंगा, लास्ट लाइन पढ़ लूंगा, बीच में कुछ मंत्र बोल दूंगा और उसके बाद मेरा आंसर आ जाएंगे, तो वो सब नहीं हो पाएगा यहाँ पे, ठीक है ना? पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा। तीन चार वर्ड तुमने मिस कर दिए, क्या पता क्वेश्चन ही मिस हो जाए। डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट, यस और नो, टेल मी। आकाश बात होना चाहता हूँ। ये वो वाला आरसी है। समझ में आ गई बात? हाँ, ये स्किप करने वाला आरसी है, बट अभी स्किप नहीं करेंगे, अभी तो हम करेंगे। क्या करोगे ब्रेक का गौरव? खत्म करते हैं ना बस। 7 और 8 9। हाँ, ये जो कुछ हो सकते हैं, हो सकते हैं, बिल्कुल हो सकते हैं, बट प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि टाइम कम हो तो सीआर वाले इजी अगर फिर हो तब भी टाइम लगेगा क्योंकि तुम्हें पढ़ना पड़ जाएगा। ये मैं मेन बात ये बोल रहा हूँ, मैं डिफिकल्ट नहीं बोल रहा, टाइम टेकिंग बोल रहा हूँ। ऑलराइट। दो तरीके हैं अगर तुम लोग थक चुके हो, तो या तो मैं स्ट्रीम को बंद कर दूं और ये तुम्हें 7 8 9 होमवर्क दे दूं। 9 RC 99 ये सीरीज है, और इस सीरीज के अंदर मैं चाहता हूँ कि 99 आरसीज हो जाएं। तो हम लोगों ने, चलो हम लोगों ने इतनी तो कर ही नहीं है, और दो तुम्हारे वर्क मिल जाएंगे। दैट कैन बी डन। मैं ग्रुप में पीडीएफ डाल दूंगा, सॉल्व कर लो, बाद में अपने आंसर मेरे चेक करा लो। योजक मेरा टारगेट 3 आरसी और 6 वीए, ये मेरा टारगेट रहता है। मतलब 18 सवाल। वैसे कर तो मैं सारे ही देता हूँ, बट टारगेट 18 लेके चलता हूँ। What do you want? You want to do it as a homework? You want a homework? ठीक है आकाश, ये अच्छा आइडिया है। ऐसा करता हूँ, मैं तुम्हारे साथ ही इसे पढ़ लेता हूँ, है ना? कर लेते हैं, ठीक है। कैमरा ऑफ कर लेता हूँ मैं, ताकि दिखाई दे सके। ठीक है। ऑलराइट। बिल्कुल सही, 30 मिनट लेंगे, करके फ्री होता है। सो आई रीड विथ यू गाइस, कि सातवां मैं खुद तुम्हारे साथ करता हूँ, आठवां तुम अकेले करोगे। फिलोसफी पहले देखते हैं क्वेश्चंस क्या है। ठीक, क्वेश्चन देख ही चुके हैं हम, कोई क्वेश्चन में समझ में आ नहीं रहा। लेट्स रीड। Philosophy has always risked becoming the art of asking questions no one needs answered. वर्ड प्ले अच्छा है, कुछ खास इंफॉर्मेशन है नहीं इसमें। आगे, क्वेश्चंस दैट अपीयर एट फर्स्ट glance remote from the urgencies of ordinary life. Why anything exists, what truth means, whether justice has a foundation. Beyond preference, such inquiries rarely determine the price of a grain or the construction of a bridge. तो फिलोसफी जो है उससे कुछ काम की बात तो हो नहीं पाती। प्राइस ऑफ मतलब दाम, आटे चावल का दाम, पुल कैसे बनेगा, रोड्स कैसे बनेंगी, ये बातें नहीं हो पाती। एंड येट अक्रॉस civilizations, eras and crises, the practice of philosophical questioning has persisted with strange and stubborn resilience. ना होने के बाद भी लोग नहीं बोलते यार फिलोसफर आदमी है यार, बोर करेगा, ऐसा नहीं बोलते। मुझे भी बोलते थे लोग पहले, पता है? अभी मेरे ही कलीग्स की, इनको इनसे सवाल मत पूछना, ये इतना बता देंगे कि बोर हो जाओगे। यही सवाल इस पैसेज में दिया गया है। फिर भी स्टिल ये सब होने के बावजूद क्यों फिलोसफी पे इतना ध्यान दिया जा रहा है? दैट इज द क्वेश्चन, राइट? इट्स longevity suggests necessity rather than indulgence, a form of intellectual hygiene undertaken not for immediate reward but to prevent the gradual hardening of the mind. You won't get immediate gratification, but Just a moment. Someone in the door. Just a moment. All right. Do you understand that? So, from Socrates' open-air interrogations in the Athenian Agora, Athens, वो ग्रीस का कैपिटल था, to the meticulous arguments of contemporary analytical seminars. ठीक है, यहाँ जल्दी से पढ़ लूंगा मैं. Thinking about thinking operates as conscience of civilization, unsettles assumptions that power, faith, convenience or habit would otherwise allow to petrify. ठीक है, तो बेसिकली हुआ कि फिलोसफी की रिक्वायरमेंट क्यों मालूम पड़ गया. तो रीजन इज सिंपल, so that you might not get immediate results, but if you kind of go through it, the philosophy, then it doesn't harden your mind for stiff and rigid truths. Okay. To ask why philosophy is already to participate in it. The moment you say कि भाई क्यों कर रहे हो philosophy, इसका मतलब तुम philosophy का part बन चुके हो दोस्तों. Welcome to the team. The very impulse to justify thinking signals, justify thinking, impulse to justify thinking signals the presence of reflective consciousness. Every society, whether tribal or technological, ancient or algorithmic, organizes itself around implicit ideas of truth, value, personhood, and meaning. These ideas silently guide laws, rituals, institutions, and aspirations. Philosophy is the act of dragging those silent ideas into daylight, exposing their scaffolding, and asking whether they withstand scrutiny. ठीक है, बहुत सारी चीजें ऐसी हैं जो सोसाइटी को गाइड करती हैं, और जो चीजें गाइड कर रही हैं उनको समझना कि वो सही है, गलत है, इम्प्रूवमेंट चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए, उन सटली प्लेस्ड आइडियाज को लाइमलाइट में, मेन स्ट्रीम में लाना ही फिलोसफी का काम है. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड? दैट इज व्हाट द सेकंड पैराग्राफ एसेंशियली मीन्स. एक बताऊं, ये डिफिकल्ट पैराग्राफ था, मैंने इसे आसान करा दिया है. आठवां तुम खुद पढ़ोगे. In this sense, philosophy is less a discipline than an attitude, an abiding refusal to let any conclusion, however comfortable, escape examination. जो बातें लग रही तो सच है ही है, इसको तो मान ही लेना चाहिए, उसको भी हम जज करते हैं as a philosopher. Do you understand that? It is the insistence that no answer be immune to questioning and no assumption too sacred to interrogate. क्या बात कही है. So this is why philosophy is important. Every question needs to be answered. Every truth, every principle, every tradition needs to be questioned. That is what philosophy essentially does. Cool. Now coming to the third paragraph, critics often charge that philosophy produces no tangible progress. It builds no bridges, cures no diseases, invents no vaccines, manufactures no goods. ना ये खेती करता है, ना ये इलाज करता है, ना ये सुरक्षा देता है, तो करता क्या है ये? This criticism overlooks the invisible architecture beneath every practical achievement. Each bridge rests on a prior conception of space, continuity, and cause. Each medical breakthrough presupposes a philosophy of evidence, probability, and value. Every political structure is shaped by underlying theories of justice, rights, and human nature. When philosophy sleeps, science grows dogmatic. Such a beautiful line. इसका तो मैं पोस्टर लगाऊंगा यार पीछे. When philosophy sleeps, science grows dogmatic. Dogmas क्या होते हैं? ऐसे beliefs जो क्वेश्चन नहीं किए जा रहे, मान लिए गए हैं. तो अगर फिलोसफी काम नहीं करेगी तो साइंस डॉगमेटिक हो जाएगा. हर एक साइंटिस्ट जो बोलेगा उसको तुम सत्य मान लोगे. तो फिलोसफी इज द एसेंस ऑफ आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस. ऑलराइट. टेक्नोलॉजी बिकम्स reckless and politics forgets justice as it's happening with US. वहाँ की philosophical problem है, which has become a political problem now. I think you can, kind of relate to that. Its utility lies not in a measurable results, but in vigilance, guarding against the complacency that accomplishes success. सक्सेसफुल होने के बाद हम कंप्लेसेंट हो जाते हैं. अमेरिका ऐसा हो रहा है क्योंकि वहां पे कोई ढंग का फिलोसॉफिकल थॉट बचा ही नहीं है. इसी कारण से कॉम्प्लेसेंसी आ चुकी है और समाज पूरा बिखर रहा है. वहां के गवर्नमेंट वर्कर्स को सैलरी नहीं आई है पिछले 2 महीने से. डू यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? व्हाई? बिकॉज देयर इज नो फिलोसॉफिकल थॉट right now. Right now, I won't take the names, the president and the entire political parties and even the businessmen over there, they have got no philosophical undertone. They all are about because they have become successful. America is the biggest economy, so now they are reckless, now they are complacent. Philosophical thought is sleeping. Do you understand that? The danger, however, is self-absorption. Reflection that loses contact with life becomes sterile wordplay, clever, intricate, and utterly irrelevant. The philosopher's task is not endless doubt for its own sake, but meaningful wonder, the disciplined attempt to return from abstraction to experience with renewed clarity. Though must circle back to action. Thus, this theory must ultimately be tested in practice, a philosophy that cannot eliminate living risks, becoming an ornament rather than a tool. So, philosophy is जरूरी but philosophy भी टेस्ट होनी चाहिए. सारी philosophy सही नहीं होगी. A philosophy cannot eliminate living risks, becoming an ornament rather than a tool. You understand that? समझना बात को. लोहे लोहार का हथियार और सुनार का सोना में ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है? लोहार का हथियार. लेकिन सुनार के सोने की वैल्यू ज्यादा है. तो फिलॉसफी कहीं ऑर्नामेंट ना बन जाए कि एक गोल्ड का बैंगल, गोल्ड का ईयर रिंग बना के एक खूबसूरत लड़की घूमेगी पहन के, यहाँ पे वो ना बन जाए कहीं. फिलॉसफी वो नहीं, फिलॉसफी बनना चाहिए लोहार का हथियार जिसके थ्रू वो उस टूल से कुछ काम भी कर सके. तो इस खतरे को बचाना भी एक काम है फिलॉसफी का. गेटिंग इट? Perhaps the reason we think at all is neither to solve the word nor to escape it, but to keep it open, to resist the premature closing of meaning. Philosophy is humanity's refusal to accept the given as final, the habitual as natural, the ordinary as obvious. It intervenes when certainty becomes arrogance and familiarity dulls perception. In that restless refusal lies philosophy's quiet civic service, the perpetual renewal of curiosity, the widening of possibility, insistence that life be lived consciously rather than merely endured. Beautiful passage. I don't know. You guys are, again, teaching should be full of art, beauty, harmony. I don't really know whether you guys like this passage or not, but I just loved it. Tell me, before answering the questions, tell me, enjoyed the reading. Huh? I could have talked an hour about this, but then I tried to do it, in a quick paced manner, and I hope you understood this. Here we go. Okay, so you've done the questions. Want to see it again? The first one, 10 seconds each, in case someone has missed it. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. The first one. First question says the author suggests that the primary value of philosophy lies in its ability to पहला है offer definitive answers to existing questions that science cannot address, produce direct technological scientific breakthrough, ये तो है ही नहीं, डायरेक्ट नहीं होगा ना, बहुत सटल तरीके से होगा, प्रिवेंट इंटेलेक्चुअल स्टैग्नेशन, यही है, रिजिड ना हो जाए माइंड, मैंने एक्सप्लेन भी किया था, सी इज करेक्ट, नो नीड टू रीड अदर्स. नेक्स्ट, which of the following, those who are watching recording, I would suggest go watch first, just 5 minutes back, I explained the entire passage. Which of the following unstated assumptions underlies the author's argument? Unstated assumption. ठीक है ना? Individuals are naturally inclined to accept unexamined beliefs unless challenged. ये बात सही लग रही है. ऐसा है, इसी कारण से philosophy का होना जरूरी है, right? Primary goal of intellectual life is to achieve practical outcomes. If that was the primary goal, the uh, 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 um, an author would have just talked why philosophy. What philosophy बात नहीं करता वो. So B is partially true. Let's see. C says philosophers are uniquely capable of restoring meaning to ordinary experience. ऐसा कुछ भी um, नहीं, ordinary experience ये मतलब ये बहुत far fetched idea है. Political structures inherently resist philosophical correction. Not really. They don't resist. They are made, formed by it. So between A and B, the better choice is A because it says the individual will be inclined to accept something, and that is why philosophical thought is necessary. So we'll go with A. Coming to next one, which of the following statements would most weaken the author's claim about philosophy's necessity? Philosophy's necessity. Scientific progress has increasingly relied on empirical methods rather than metaphysical foundations. ये बात तो इसे वीकन करेगा, पर सबसे ज्यादा वीकन करेगा क्या, देखते हैं. Political systems function effectively even when their moral premises are unexamined. C. Historical breakthroughs in mathematics, physics originated from philosophical reflections based on causality. ये तो इसको weaken नहीं, strengthen ही कर रहा है. Societies often institutionalize unexamined cultural assumptions without immediate collapse. Often they, okay, unexamined without immediate collapse. Immediate collapse नहीं होगा, but बाद में हो जाएगा भाई, तो फायदा क्या हुआ, फिलोसफी सेटल वैसे भी होती है, तो ये दोनों तो हो नहीं सकते. कमिंग टू फर्स्ट एंड सेकंड, ए एंड बी, तो साइंटिफिक प्रोग्रेस इंक्रीजली रिलायंट एम्पिरिकल मेथड्स रादर देन, ये वीकेंड कर रहा है. और दूसरा बोल रहा है इफेक्टिव इवन, ठीक है. सी, मेटाफिजिकल फाउंडेशन इज अ मोर अम्ब्रेला टर्म, मोर जेनरिक टर्म, बट मॉरल प्रेमाइसिस इज थोड़ा सा स्पेसिफिक, सो गो विद द स्पेसिफिक which is more concerned towards the author's claim. So we'll go with B. C C A B is the correct sequence over here. Wow. Oh, sorry, C C A B D. Okay. C, yeah, C C A B. This is C A B. अच्छा एक बचा हुआ है. Okay. The final paragraph, the final paragraph suggests that the author's ultimate purpose of life is to replace established truths with new certainties, maintain openness by preventing fixed interpretations of reality. ट्रूथ को न्यू सर्टेनिटीज नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. एस्टैब्लिश ट्रूथ अगर है फिलोसफिकल थॉट में चलेगा, चलना चाहिए. नहीं है तो क्वेश्चन करना चाहिए, है ना. इफ इट एस्टैब्लिश्ड Through philosophical thought, it's good. B. Maintain openness by preventing fixed interpretation of reality. Exactly. फिक्स्ड इंटरप्रिटेशन नहीं होना चाहिए. मैं विजिबल अंकित इसलिए नहीं हूँ कि मैं अगर विजिबल होऊंगा तो स्क्रीन ढक जाएगी. तो फिक्स्ड इंटरप्रिटेशन नहीं होना चाहिए. इसीलिए तो फिलोसफिकल थॉट जरूरी है. कंस्ट्रक्ट कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव यूनिवर्सल थियरीज ऑफ मीनिंग, इनकरेज स्केप्टिसिज्म अबाउट साइंटिफिक अचीवमेंट्स. नहीं, इनका ये मकसद नहीं था. सो इफ यू लुक एट द लास्ट पैराग्राफ, यू नो, टू रेजिस्ट द प्री मेच्योर क्लोजर ऑफ मीनिंग, टू कीप इट ओपन. क्लियरली बोला गया है कि इसको ओपननेस चाहिए, तो विथ बी. सो करेक्ट सीक्वेंस इज सी ए बी बी. हाउ मेनी ऑफ यू गॉट करेक्ट? नाउ नेक्स्ट पैसेज, you have 3 minutes to read it. Have you read all the questions? Here is the passage. Time starts now. Yeah. Now I need answers. 20 seconds for each. Here comes the next one. Next one. And the next one. Tell me your answers. Here is the question one. ओके मृदुल कोई नहीं कर लो जितना हो पा रहा है क्वेश्चन वन दिख रहा है सामने Akash has the answers here. Akash says AAAB. Okay, Akash. Chalo, let me read the passage now. Human cognition is often celebrated for its remarkable capacity to store. क्यों ऐसा होता है? Store, index, retrieve vast amounts of information. Philosophers, neuroscientists, technologists alike have long treated memory as a central pillar of intelligence, thread that weaves experience into identity. But this emphasis has obscured an equally vital and perhaps more sophisticated cognitive operation, forgetting. Comedy हो गई यार. Forgetting is generally dismissed as a defect, a lapse of attention, a failure of discipline. Yet cognitive science increasingly suggests that forgetting is not the mind's weakness, but its deepest act of discipline, the very architecture through which relevance is constructed. So we tend to forget what is not relevant to us. Getting it? All right. Second question, Yera. Now, the paradox begins with an assumption, rarely questioned, that perfect memory is desirable. But imagine a mind incapable of forgetting, a mind that retains every trivial sensory detail, every thought, every emotional ripple with equal fidelity. Such a mind would drown in an undifferentiated data. Identity would not strengthen with more memory, it would disintegrate under its weight. The ability to forget then is not a concession to biological imperfection, but a precondition for meaning. A photograph is not valuable because of every pixel it contains, but because of what it selects and what it excludes. Do you understand that now? So basically, there was a psychological experiment as well, which discussed, I just switch on my camera, that who are more intelligent people? The people who tend to remember everything, people who tend to forget things, not all things, the things which are irrelevant. So it was shown afterwards, not in this passage, that the people who were more intelligent tended to forget things which were not relevant to them. Do you understand it now? Memory researchers frame this as a competition between encoding and pruning. Brain is constantly inundated with more data than it can possibly store. Forgetting is the mechanism by which the mind eliminates noise so that signal can emerge. It is only by forgetting most of what we encounter that the small fraction we retain becomes coherent enough to guide judgment. Far from being accidental, forgetting appears to be the mind's primary curatorial act, shaping identity as much through omission as through preservation. This philosophical insight gains urgency in an era obsessed with total recall. Our machines remember everything: search histories, photographs, conversations, locations, preferences. We preserve what we once allowed to fade. The modern nervous system now extends beyond the body into cloud databases and digital archives, creating a form of memory that never sleeps and never decays. But the externalization of memory has an unintended cognitive consequence. The more meticulously we preserve information, the less capable we may become of interpreting it. Exactly. That is what is happening with the modern world, when देखो ये जो है ना, ये फिलोसफी प्लस मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी पे बेस्ड है ये पैसेज आज के टाइम पे. The technology has improved so much that we human minds are constantly fed with data information which is not even relevant at times. Our attention has span has decreased. Not why, why? It's not because we have become more stupid. It's because we have been forced to think that time is a valuable asset. And and when we think time is valuable, we tend to attend more to any particular information. And now there's so much information, mind doesn't get time to realize what is important, what is not. That and that is the reason why people mindlessly start scrolling through reels these days. 10 सेकंड 60 सेकंड का रील नहीं पसंद है, आगे बढ़ा दिया. क्यों आगे बढ़ा देते हैं? कि पता है कि एक और आने वाला है. Do you understand that? And in all this while, people are somehow becoming more stupid. More stupid. Why? Why? Is it a genetic change? Is it an evolutionary change to become more stupid? Not real technology. And the people who are sitting at the creators' ends, the creators, the video creators, they somehow know that we keep on inundating data, and ultimately everything is vanity metrics in the modern world. And that is why you are fed with so much information that you get confused what to gather, what to reject. And as a result, you gather nothing, you reject nothing. You become a zombie, a thinking, living, thinking zombie. Do you understand that? The passage talks about that. Well, when machines handle remembering, humans may gradually lose the skill of forgetting. Exactly. Of letting the trivial vanish so the meaningful can surface. And that's the reason. If you had a breakup, let's say 5 years back, you have all the data, all the screenshots, all the messages that you and you know your partner were going through. And you can just go through it and then remember every trivial detail and become toxic or full of anguish, right? Which was not necessary. Anyways, the confusion, तो ये example समझ में सबको आ रहा होगा. I'm giving the most basic examples because the passage itself is hard. The confusion arises because accumulation feels like understanding, but the two are distinct. To possess information is not to comprehend it. A library is not a mind. A cloud archive is not a worldview. The danger of digital memory is that it tempts us into believing that nothing worth knowing should ever be lost. In doing so, it interrupts the most fundamental cognitive rhythm, the alternation between remembering and forgetting, selection and erasure, signal and silence. गाइस टेल मी, जो मैंने एग्जांपल दिया समझ में आया? कुछ इसमें बोलो, यस नो कुछ करो. The cultural, अच्छा पहले समझा दूं मैं. The cultural anxiety surrounding information overload, or obsession with productivity tools, filtering systems, cognitive hacks, reflects not an unprecedented amount of data, but an unprecedented refusal to let anything disappear. A healthy mind permits loss, an overwhelmed mind resists it. Result is not wisdom, but accumulation, not knowledge, but clutter. Seen in this light, forgetting is not cognitive decay, but cognitive refinement. It is the mind's quiet rebellion against the tyranny of permanence. Memory without forgetting is hoarding. Forgetting without memory is emptiness. Wow. Wow. Memory without forgetting is hoarding. Hoarding क्या data का. And forgetting without memory is emptiness. The two must interact for judgment to grow. Perhaps then what we choose not to remember shapes us as much as what we do. The stories we allow to fade, experiences we release, details we discard, these are not erasures, but the scaffolding of perspective. To forget is not to lose the past, it is to make room for the present. Beautiful. Did you like it? ये कोई PYQ नहीं है दोस्तों, ये मैंने बनाया है. How do you like it? Before going on to solve the questions, let us sit back for a while and understand. ठीक है, कैट नजदीक है, सब कुछ है, मैं समझता हूँ उन बातों को, पर ये बात समझना जरूरी है कि हम कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं. दिस नीड्स अ ब्रेक. यू आस्क फॉर मोटिवेशन. This passage itself is a motivation that you need to let things go for a while, right? Do you understand that? Otherwise वही हो जाएगा. क्या क्या हो जाएगा? सिंपल यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ है. क्या हो जाएगा? Memory without forgetting is will be hoarding, and forgetting without memory will be emptiness. Don't become empty. Don't become a hoarder. That is what the exact motivation is. Well, let's go to the questions now. The author would most likely agree with मृदुल. यस, वो मैंने ऐसा इजी लिखा ही है, बट मीनिंग थोड़ा सा ज्यादा लिखा है. The author would most likely agree with which of the following interpretations of digital memory. First, it democratizes access to information but risks diminishing interpretive depth. It represents a natural evolution of human cognition toward collective intelligence. ये तो नहीं कर रहा हूँ. वो तो बोल रहा है कि भाई ये तो गलत है. ये सपोर्ट, ये फेवरेबल पॉइंट है, ये तो हो नहीं सकता. It allows humans to offload irrelevant data so that they can focus on learning. इससे वो अग्री करेगा, बट मोस्ट लाइकली अग्री नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि वो रिलेवेंट डेटा अगर आपने कहीं और लोड कर दिया तो उस वजह से देखो उसको आप. ए बोल रहा है इट डेमोक्रेटाइजेस एक्सेस टू इंफॉर्मेशन बट रिस्क डिमिनिशिंग इंटरप्रेटिव डेप्थ. तो वो टेक्नोलॉजी का अगेंस्ट नहीं है ऑथर, है ना. बोल रहा है ठीक है, इससे इंफॉर्मेशन आपका जो ऐसा है जो आपको याद नहीं रखना, आप स्टोर कर सकते हो, इट्स अ गुड थिंग. But then it also, diminishes your interpretation. So that is what, because we have an option A, we won't go for B. It allows humans to offload irrelevant data so that they can focus on learning. ऐसा नहीं है, वो फोकस ऑन लर्निंग नहीं होता, उससे ये लोग और कंफ्यूज होते हैं. दे बिकम होल्डर्स ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन. Gosh, it guarantees preservation of identity by storing personal experiences permanently. ये बात सही है, बट इससे ये इंटरप्रिटेशन नहीं है, डिजिटल मेमोरी का फीचर है. This is a feature, not an interpretation. While question asks for interpretation, that is why D can also be eliminated. We'll go for A. Cool. Next. The author's argument implies which of the following about the relationship between information and understanding. Information and understanding. Understanding emerges independently of the volume of information accumulated. ये बात तो सही है. आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या था? रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन इंफॉर्मेशन एंड अंडरस्टैंडिंग. जितना इंफॉर्मेशन आएगा उतना हम सीखेंगे क्या? ऐसा नहीं है. That means understanding and the volume of information are not connected. They have got no correlation, neither positive nor negative. Neither positive nor negative. ठीक है, ये सही लग रहा है. The more detailed one's memory is, the more accurate one's judgment becomes. Not really. Author is not. Author ये बात imply बिल्कुल नहीं कर रहा. ज़्यादा मेमोरी होगी तो जजमेंट अच्छा नहीं होगा, खराब हो जाएगा. बिकॉज विल बी अ क्लटर, अ मैस, टोटल मैस. अच्छा, एक फिल्म देखी है, व्हाट इज इट कॉल्ड, जिम कैरी एंड केट विंसलेट, सनशाइन ऑफ द स्पॉटलेस माइंड, इटर्नल सनशाइन ऑफ स्पॉटलेस माइंड. That movie is all about, erasing the memories. If you have not watched it, just watch it. It's a science fiction, but it's got a highly philosophical undertone. That memory erase करना क्यों जरूरी हो जाता है? Information becomes meaningful only when contextualized by emotion. That's right, but this is not what author is implying by drawing the relationship between information and understanding. C is a correct statement, but it doesn't answer the question. Information is valuable only when it can be retrieved effortlessly. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. Information valuable वो होती है जिसका कोई context हो. यहाँ तो कुछ भी information हो तो ये गलत है, तो A will go with A. Clear? Next. सैयारा. मैं तो पता है एक बात बताऊं, वैसे जब मैंने इटर्नल सनशाइन स्पॉटलेस माइंड की बात करी ना, तो उस लाइन में सैयारा का नाम नहीं आना चाहिए, पता है. मतलब ठीक है, सैयारा इज एन एवरेज मूवी. मतलब मैं इसको एक्सप्लेन भी नहीं करना चाहता एक्चुअली. इटर्नल सनशाइन स्पॉटलेस माइंड इज अ वेरी डीप फिल्म. वेरी डीप. इट हैज गॉट पिंक फ्लॉयड का म्यूजिक. ठीक है. कैट के बाद देखना आकाश. हाँ. अच्छा, मैं कैट के पहले एक मूवी रिकमेंड करूँ, सब लोग देख लेना एक बार. ओके, इफ द ऑथर्स रीजनिंग इज एक्सेप्टेड. कहाँ गया? हाँ, अरे यार. हाँ. Which of the following should be true about an ideal education system? ठीक है. A. It should emphasize long-term memorization above selective forgetting. नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं. वो चाहता है कि भाई forgetting जरूरी है ना. It should train students to distinguish essential information from cognitive noise. Exactly. This is what author's reasoning is. That you should know what is noise, what is relevant. That is why he'll go with P. You know what? मेरा भी यही एजुकेशन सिस्टम का ग्रेड स्कूल बनाने के पीछे रीज़न यही है मेरा, कि मैं चाहता था कि एसेंशियल इन्फॉर्मेशन और कॉग्निटिव नॉइज़ के बीच में डिफरेंस रहे. किसी भी तरह की बकवास, किसी भी तरह के पर्सनल ओपिनियंस अगर रेलेवेंट नहीं है एकेडमिक से या लर्निंग से, तो वो नहीं होने चाहिए, ना टीचर के द्वारा ना स्टूडेंट के द्वारा. ठीक है ना. इंफॉर्मेशन शुड बी एसेंशियल बट इज रिक्वायर्ड फॉर लर्निंग, for cat, and kabhi kabhi for life. C. It should discourage reliance on internal memory in favor of digital tools. Not really. दोनों बातें जरूरी है. It should require students to archive all learning material for future reference. ये भी गलत है, ऐसा नहीं है. वो चाहिए कि अगर अगर आपको कभी कुछ रेफर करना हो तो आप देख सको उसको भी ना. तो टेक्नोलॉजी भी इम्पोर्टेंट है. बहुत बहुत ज़्यादा मेमोरी लोड ना हो जाए. तो बी इज द करेक्ट ऑप्शन. ए बी इज द करेक्ट सीक्वेंस. आकाश देखो, आकाश बहुत कूल बन रहा था कि समझ नहीं आ रहा, ये नहीं आ रहा, बट आकाश में सारा सही है. आकाश वर्मा. आकाश, अच्छा एक बताऊं, आकाश के लिए हमें एक बार वी शुड गिव हिम सम अप्लॉज. बिकॉज ड्यू टू बिकॉज ऑफ आकाश आई स्टार्टेड दिस. आकाश ने लास्ट क्लास में बोला था कि सर फिलोसफी की आप आरसी करा दो. दैट वाज माइंड ब्लोइंग व्हेन वी डिड लास्ट टाइम in the batch. So I was like, okay, is that so? And thanks Akash for reminding me that, for making me nostalgic about batch one. And then I thought like, okay, let's do it. I already had this that I'll be doing some VRC sessions, but I did not think it like that, packaging it as a RC99, starting philosophy. This due to Akash only. So good. And now comes the last passage. उसको हम करते हैं homework, है ना. So I'll give you that as the homework. Hey, Sriyesh, you have joined when the session is about to end. So Akash, हाँ ठीक है, तुम भी thanks बोल दो. See, saying thanks is acknowledging the fact that okay, you matter, right? Well, so the passage 9, I'll be giving it as a homework. I'll share the PDF in the WhatsApp group. There is some new person in the chat. You can just go to the description and join the WhatsApp group. Like Sriyesh, I think it's a new person. So you can watch the entire thing, Sriyesh. 8 passages we have discussed. Ninth passage will be in the WhatsApp group. That will be a homework. There should be some take home, right? And once you do that, उसके बाद क्या करो तुम लोग, अपने सारे के सारे इस कोर्स यहाँ पे ये लाइव स्ट्रीम खत्म होने के बाद कमेंट्स में डाल दोगे, ऑल ऑफ यू. The people who are watching it live, the people watching it as a recording, I want everyone's score to be there because I'll repeat. um, RC99 अब जो जितने भी सेशंस होंगे उनके सारे स्कोर को कंपाइल किया जाएगा. और जो लोग जैड का एग्जाम देने वाले हैं, तो फ्रॉम 3rd December आई एम लॉन्चिंग द जैड क्रैश कोर्स. So the top 3 scorers will be getting free access to that course, which has got the entire live sessions and also 4 to 5 mocks for that. All right. ठीक है आकाश, आरसी की टोन्स का तो शायद मुश्किल होगा, टाइम इतना है नहीं। बट फिल इन द ब्लैंक्स का जरूर है, पूरा वीए का सेशन होगा, इंटायर वर्बल एबिलिटी, a huge marathon. We'll be discussing para jumbles, para summary, fill in the blanks, odd one out, all all those things. All right, chalo. Take care. Bye bye. Do not waste a single minute in things which are not relevant right now. Go and study. Bye bye. आज मैथ्स का सेशन शाम को 9 बजे, आज नहीं होगा क्योंकि मैं लंबा मैराथन करना था, उसको कल या परसों करेंगे। ठीक है अंकित।